Man like Mark Sullivan, worry yourself. Stay tuned for the thrilling episode. Woo!
A positive mental attitude can clear away all obstacles which stand between you and your major purpose in life.
This is the Snowboard Project featuring Mark Sullivan and the Bead. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.
Hey, what's up, all you Snowboard Project listeners? A lot of you know and some of you don't, but we just sent out our sticker packs to all our supporters on Patreon just in time for you to slap a sticker on your new board. You sponsor us, and we're going to give you so much great content just about real life in snowboarding. But hey, if you haven't checked out patreon.com/the Snowboard Project, you can sponsor us and help us keep bringing you all this great content. We are talking about so much this month. We are talking about snowboarding, bottom line. 2, we are talking about life experiences through snowboarding. We have a weekly news show, and we just bullshit and keep it real in the snowboard industry. We are talking not just about tricks. This is bigger than that. This is about experiencing snowboarding for what it is, the adventure, the friendships, the progression on the mountain and off the mountain in life, following your passion in whatever aspect of snowboarding you happen to love. This podcast is snowboarding and making the most of every single day in snowboarding. So please visit us on patreon.com/the Snowboard Project and help us keep bringing you all these great stories from snowboarders just like you.
Welcome back to the Snowboard Project. I'm Mark Sullivan.
And I am the Beav, and we are in beautiful Sun Valley at our Snowboard Project studios right here at the Hot Water Inn.
I knew you were going to do that.
I got to throw it out there sometimes so I can get some really rad snowboarders coming to the inn, you know?
Right.
But this last interview we did actually at the inn with a really rad snowboarder.
That's right. It's our first three-way interview, so this is all like uncharted waters.
Interview.
That's right. It's uncharted waters. That's really creepy, Beeb. You're always creeping people out, though.
Okay,
that's not unfamiliar. That's not uncharted waters for you.
Okay.
But a three-way interview is.
Okay. Anyways, our first three-way.
This is going to be Chase Josey, American Olympian. Also, actually, one of our local dudes from Haley, Idaho.
One of our great friends. I've obviously watched Chase's career from when he was like a 6-year-old kid, now all the way going to the Olympics, which is pretty rad to see, you know, a local Sun Valley kid
finish 6th place or 3rd loser at the Olympics.
So harsh.
I know.
Now you've watched Chase obviously through a lot of the competitive times that I wasn't necessarily privy to.
It's amazing watching him ratchet his way up the standings.
Yeah.
Like I remember when he was like, okay, he made finals for the first time, right? And then all of a sudden he's top 10. Now he's a podium rider. And then last, I believe January, he won the Mammoth Grand Prix. So now he is winning world class events, and then he went to the Olympics, and basically he was the 3rd best American. So after Sean, after Ben Ferguson, he was like the 3rd place American, and just incredible rider, Chase Josey.
So in this interview, Mark, we pretty much just tackle a lot of what a lot of riders are going through, which is like building that career as a professional snowboarder to get to a level where you can go to the Olympics or be a paid athlete, right?
Right. And Chase is 23, but he's actually dedicated like a majority of those 23 years to progression in the sport of snowboarding.
He absolutely has. And there's been a lot of sacrifice, not only in his life, but his coach's life and his parents. Yeah. And so we tackle all those things. Anyway, should we just roll into this?
Yeah. So check out our first Menage
interview.
That just sounds so creepy.
Sounds so creepy.
I know. Let's do it anyway.
All right.
Episode, we don't even know. Yeah. Chase Josey. Okay, so this is Chase Josey.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Let's do a little intro, B. Let's
hear
your your special intro, because I'm putting you on the hot seat today.
I get the hot seat.
You get the hot seat. We're all here together.
All right. Welcome everybody to the Snowboard Project. Today we are joined by none other than Chase Josey, Sun Valley Snowboard team member, U.S. team member, Olympian in the last Olympics. And so we get to put you on the spot. Chase, how you feeling today?
I'm great. Yeah, thanks for having me here today, guys. And yeah, we're gonna get right into it.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Okay. Why don't we start with, I've been watching your career since you were a little kid. Talk to me how you first got into snowboarding, just very briefly, kind of about how do you remember your first day snowboarding?
Yeah, I grew up here in Sun Valley, Idaho, and I started snowboarding when I was 5 years old. My dad taught me how, and, a year or two after that, I joined the local snowboard team here, and I think you were still on snowboard team when I first joined way back in the day, I believe.
I don't know. I might have been filming the snowboard team.
I don't know. I thought you were still. I don't know. You were recently out, if not. So, yeah, that's when we first met. And yeah, you've been kind of watching my whole career.
I have.
And it's been a really cool experience, growing up here in Idaho and being on the Sun Valley snowboard team. And
cool.
Is it hard growing up in Idaho when like all these kids are growing up in Mammoth? Like Mammoth is like a hotbed. Breckenridge is like a hot spot of snowboarding. I mean, is it hard growing up in a place that's kind of off the beaten path for like known for snowboarding or whatever? I mean, what was it like just being a kid and like seeing all the photos coming up from Mammoth and Breckenridge and wherever?
Yeah, there definitely was moments when I would like be seeing Mammoth and Breckenridge and all these riders coming out of these really destination hotspots for snowboarding. But I always felt like it was really cool growing up in Idaho, being kind of like the more unique place, kind of out in the middle of nowhere in a sense. And it kind of just gave me the opportunity to kind of be my own rider in a way. And, I loved growing up riding Bald Mountain. It was just so steep, so much vertical. And so, I just loved riding fast. And, pretty soon, Sun Valley got a half pipe when I was like 10 years old. It was like a 13-foot mini pipe. And, that's how I was introduced
to double overhead.
That was like, probably double, triple overhead when I was just 3 feet tall. But, so that's when I was first introduced to the half pipe. And, soon they were having rails and jumps. And, I don't think it really affected too much. I think Mammoth riders, are blessed to have massive jumps, and Breckenridges consistently have good half pipes and jumps. But, Idaho's given me something special. Just, I love to free ride. I love half pipe jumps, kind of it all. So it's been cool.
Cool.
Yeah, talk just a little bit about that, how that kind of being able to go into the backcountry with your friends or, hike around Baldy or get that much vertical in a day kind of has affected your riding, I guess, in a positive way.
Yeah, I think so. It's really just given me a balance and an appreciation for what snowboarding can allow. And, I love snowmobiling, riding powder with my friends, hiking a jump with friends, hiking a half pipe with team, we did everything growing up. So it's just given me kind of a sense of what I can do with the sport, which has been really cool.
Cool. Being part of a team, I've noticed over the years a number of kids kind of come and go on snowboard teams. Do you feel like for you, and I think some people the competitive nature of being on a snowboard team is really a good thing. And I think for some people, it's a destructive thing to people's kind of like snowboarding careers that could have been or should have been. How did you kind of weather that as a snowboarder?
Yeah, I think kind of like especially locally, the snowboard team really kind of ebbs and flows and has peaks and valleys for where more kids are on team than not. And when I was coming up, there was a lot of kids on snowboard team. And particularly, I think there were a few more older kids on the team at the time. So I really had a lot of people to look up to at the time. And, I was competitive with it. So I think that allowed me to kind of like focus in a little bit more and kind of like tune my skills opposed to like a non-competitive approach. But, in the last 10 years, it's kind of taken a little bit of a plummet with the amount of kids here on the local team. So, I just hope that, the kids can find inspiration, whether that's being a competitor, not being a competitor, whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know. Did
you find it hard sometimes to live up to kind of the pressure that, competitive snowboarding would put on you, like as a young kid coming up? Was that tough?
I don't really think so. I've always kind of felt like I've been good at handling the pressure, being that I just wouldn't put that much pressure on myself. I liked the competing, but, I never really like expected to win or like I wanted to win and do well. But at the same time, it was just an opportunity to travel to, local events, regional events and just kind of get better at snowboarding. So it was just always a cool opportunity. And Yeah.
How did you make this transition from being a guy who's like on a team at a local resort to being a guy now who's on the U.S. snowboard team and traveling the world and like really, just snowboarding basically with all your time?
Yeah, well, it started locally here on the Sun Valley snowboard team, and I did that all the way from elementary school till I graduated high school. Mm-hmm. And, fortunately, cards were dealt, and I made the U.S. snowboarding rookie team the year after high school.
Okay.
So it just kind of was a natural transition from the time I graduated high school to that team. And then year after that, I got bumped up to the pro team, and everything's kind of just been escalating in a progressive way. And, I went through the 2014 Olympic qualifying events and finished top 10, I believe. And that just kind of gave me the mindset, that maybe I could make the Olympic team down the line. Right. And so I've kind of just been in the right zone for all of these things to be happening. And, last season I was fortunate enough to be riding well and, ended up making the Olympic team. Yeah. And it was a pretty crazy season.
Yeah, but you said just now that you were started on the rookie team and then you got bumped up to the pro team the next year. Out of curiosity, how much did you get paid to be on the U.S. pro team?
I don't think I get paid at all. I think the USOC does give grants out, but it's not technically a salary or anything like that.
Does it cover your bills?
I don't think. I think I got a $1,500 grant from the USOC this year. So that doesn't really cover all the bills.
What would you buy with that $1,500?
That's about like one plane ticket to Europe. So,
right.
So they cover one trip for me, so that's good.
Okay, but you still have figured out a way to make some money snowboarding, though, correct? You make a living. Would you say you make a living off of snowboarding?
I have made a living off of snowboarding since high school. So the last 5 years, I've been able to fund all my expenses, which has been really cool. I gotta give a huge shout out to Rockstar. They've probably been the most helping in my career money wise. So,
do you drink a lot of energy drinks before you drop in?
No, I'm not really drinking energy drinks before I ride, but
yeah.
On
the podium though, you definitely have
on the
one
podium.
Yeah,
you gotta have that can shot.
Yeah, for sure. That's,
absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, energy drinks have really allowed guys like you to have like kind of rich careers in the sport of snowboarding. Monster, Rockstar, Red Bull have really kind of subsidized a lot of athletic careers, I would say. Whereas, even though you're on the U.S. pro team, you might not actually be making a real salary per se.
Right. Now, are you represented by anybody? Have you been able to secure like some kind of representation?
Like an agent?
Yeah, like an agent.
I do have an agent under Evolution Marketing. Ryan Runke has been my go-to.
Runke.
Nice.
Okay.
Uncle Runk.
Yeah. Old dirty Runke. Nice. That's cool.
I know that was a question we wanted to ask him because we wonder, I know that that's got to be a hard thing to get to that level where someone says, well, we want to represent you.
Okay, so how do you get Runke to like give your career enough attention? He's got the Ferguson brothers. Both of those guys are like pretty up and coming. He's got you. He's got a bunch of different athletes, I'm assuming, that I don't know I don't know everyone. I think he represents maybe Red. I'm not sure.
He's got Red. He's got a few surfers, a few mountain bikers. So he's got his hands full, but I think it's a very small niche crew that he's taking on, and I think he's got a lot of mutual respect for everybody. So I think he does a good job of giving everybody the right amount of attention.
Right. Do you ever feel like jealous? Like, how come Gabe Ferguson got that deal and I didn't?
No, I don't really think so because not too many people are getting deals right now anyway. So it's a slow time of year.
Okay. So what are your other sponsors? Let's talk about all your sponsors since we're talking sponsors.
Let's just run down the line here.
Yeah,
so
why
we
not?
got U.S. Snowboard Team, Rockstar Energy, Smith Optics, Capita, Union, Sun Valley.
Right. Clothing company?
No clothing.
Ooh,
no clothing.
Okay.
Yeah,
so like what happens if like a company like Spider came along or like and they like were like, you know what, we're not going to really get into snowboarding per se, but we really want someone to wear a speed suit in the half pipe. And Runke's like, man, they're going to pay you like $100,000 a year to compete in the speed suit. What's your answer?
Well, $100,000 is definitely something to think of, but that's actually funny you mentioned Spider because as of now, Burton has, I believe, pulled out from sponsoring the U.S. Snowboard Team, and there's talk of Spider taking over the outerwear sponsorship for all of the snowboard teams. So, there might be some Spider branded snowboard jackets out there this season.
What are they called?
Which could
Spider
be kind of
webs
strange.
everywhere?
I don't really know what the deal is with that.
Interesting. So does that mean that they're going to give me a speed suit to announce in? Because I'll announce in a speed suit.
You might be able to finesse a speed suit.
All right, cool. All right, see, I'm on it.
I can just see you in the booth in a speed suit. So
I would. I'd have like one
guy.
of those like starter jackets. I'd have like a ski racing jacket too, so I could like have it like bundled up, and as soon as the final start, I throw the jacket. Make sure the potato's in the front, not the back, and and then I'd rock that shit, no problem.
The visuals there, Sullivan.
I know, dude. I'm not scared. Okay, go ahead, Beef. What's your next question?
Okay, so they just released the list of all the people that are on the U.S. team, like yesterday, right? And I was noticing, a couple people are missing off that. Obviously, Sean and Ferguson are not actually on that.
Ben or Gabe or both?
Gabe's on it. Ben is not.
Okay.
So,
okay.
What does that kind of mean? Like, looking at that team, what does that mean? Like that Sean's not going to be, a competitor in the next 4 years. What does that kind of look like for you guys?
Well, just because Sean is not technically on the U.S. snowboard team, I don't think that necessarily means he's not a competitor. He's really been doing his own career on his own path.
Gotcha.
Since as long as I can remember. So that was a personal decision on both of their parts not to be on the U.S. snowboard team, not because of anything like they didn't qualify. I know Snowboarder Mag just put out this article that said Shaun White failed to qualify for the U.S. snowboard team, and
which is wrong. Obviously, wrong.
No, he would qualify because if you look at the last results, I mean, it's
and then they got into the whole
Olympics
thing, and it's like who's on the U.S. snowboard team in a non-Olympic year. And then they had a question about, who really cares who's on the U.S. snowboard team in a non-Olympic year, and I was kind of just scratching my head on what they're talking about, but.
Well, the thing is, though, I mean, for me anyway, it's like the first year after the Olympics is actually the most important year for the Olympics, because it's like the people who are on the gas the year after the Olympics, when everyone's kind of kicking back and like riding powder or whatever, those are the people who actually will have those extra hours, those extra laps in the pipe to really kind of be ready, setting themselves up basically for the next Olympics, and so to me, it's like the guys in the past anyway who have really not let off the gas pedal, like after the Olympics, because I'd say most guys kind of just like are on cruise control the year after the Olympics. Do you feel like you're on cruise control right now? You got 6th. That's pretty good.
Yeah, 6th place at the Olympics. What is that?
Third loser.
Third loser.
Oh, come on.
So yeah, the year after the Olympics is kind of a time to take a breath in a sense and not feel as much pressure as the year before. But like you said, if you can remain on the gas and not be all complacent, I think that can really set you up in the next years to come and give you kind of an edge up on the guys that are chilling this year. But
yeah,
this year will be interesting. I think the level is still going to be going up. I've seen a lot of new tricks just in this summer and fall.
Like, what are the coolest new tricks you've seen?
I've seen a lot more double 12s and double 14s than I probably would have expected to see coming after the Olympics. So,
do you feel like you need a double 12 and a double or a back-to-back 14s basically to be viewed in the same light as like? I mean,
that's a really good topic. I've really been talking a lot about that with Ricky Bauer, my head coach on the U.S. snowboard team, and what this season really is going to demand for podium runs, and that's definitely a topic. Do you need double 12s and double 14s to even compete? And
sure.
I'm on the edge. Like, do I need it? Do I want to do it? Maybe yes, maybe no. But there's also this topic that we've talked about. It's like, it's not what you do, but how you do it. So, that's where it comes down to just big amplitude and style. And then maybe you can still get away with some of those more creative, less spinny tricks can still rival a double 14 if done well enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like you won the Mammoth event last year, right?
Correct.
Yeah. You won Mammoth and you didn't have I think you might have had 112 in your run then, or no 12s.
No 12s.
You had the double Michael Chuck and then the switch double Michael Chuck, right?
Yeah,
those were like your money maker tricks, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so those weren't double 12s. Those were essentially like, you might call them double 10s. I mean, you call them just Michael Chucks or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like you're like spinning like a cork or whatever. And so anyhow, having a different run like in the past compared to the other competitors, because if you look at like Scotty James, you look at Shaun White, you look at Hirano, they all are like basically on these like 12 and 14 runs where it's like, 2 12s, 2 14s or whatever. how do you think about that? Because you're not actually doing those same tricks that they're doing, and like those top 3 guys though are all doing that. Do you feel like you have to have that in your bag?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely looking at those guys, and they're doing some really innovative, technical, big tricks, and of course that's been on my mind. Being that I want to compete with those guys and be competitive, and looking
kick
for
their
these,
asses,
looking for these podiums and
like
take them down. Like that's a goal of mine. But so it's like, yeah, it definitely has me thinking about whether or not I want to start getting into these 12s and 14s. And I do have a front double 12, and then I was training just last month in Sauce-Fay. They had a pretty good airbag setup, so I tried a few cab 14s and front 14s into the bag just to kind of get a feel for them. So they're on the horizon for me. We'll see just what happens. I mean, a cab 14 is gnarly any way you want to look at it. I don't care who you are. I mean, Shaun White battled that trick for years. He rose above it, managed to win the Olympics, which was pretty insane. But the only person who can really do them and make them look easy is a Yumo. And he's kind of a freak of nature. So I don't think anybody is really going to be able to do them effortlessly. They're still going to take time, diligence, and fails to get to where you can do them consistently.
But still, I mean, if you look at kind of like, I mean, Ayumo's pretty young still. Scotty James is pretty young still. So those are the guys that you're going to be competing with, whether or not Shaun White's there, whether or not Ben Ferg is there. You're going to be basically to win an X Games gold, to win, the Grand Prix even, or TTR 6-star events or whatever. You're going to be compared directly to those guys. Exactly. Right. And then you got Pat Bergner, maybe. He's like kind of up there with those kind of tricks. And you guys are all about the same age. Hirano's like the youngest guy, isn't he? Out of the 3 of you.
Yeah, between like me, Ben, Pat, Scotty, Jan, some of the other Swiss guys, we're all 23, 24. And then there's kind of this younger tier groups, Gabe Ferguson, Jake Pates, Ayumu, coming up like 19, 20 years old. So yeah, being able to compete with those guys, it's going to take a bit, it's going to take a lot of good riding. And I think the 12s and 14s are going to have to be present down the line. But going back to the point, it's not what you do, but how you do it. So I'm just kind of looking at, okay, maybe if I can, take my switch double Michael Chuck an extra 5 feet in amplitude, that's going to help.
Right. That'd be sick.
I've been working on double Chuck Japan, just switching up grabs, just being really smooth with my line and being more diligent about exactly how I'm doing these tricks.
Right. That's pretty cool. You ever just think about like, screw the new tricks, I'm just going to go the Tanya Harding route?
We joke about it at the top. We're like, who's unscrewing Sean's bindings right now? All right. Like, nobody's done that
surfboard
yet.
wax in the pocket. You just rub on a little surfboard wax on the base. Yeah. No, that was kind of a trick. So one more question I have about the half pipe, which is like, you have 2 kind of different things going on, which is like you have the tricks, right? The individual tricks, like the switch double Michael Chuck. And then you have like, also the sequence of tricks. Like, hey, I did back-to-back 14s into back-to-back 12s. How do you like weigh those 2 things, like the sequence of tricks versus like the individual trick?
I think that going into a sequence of tricks just adds difficulty. Being that you have to just land the previous trick perfect to go into another 14. So if there's any sort of error or bobble, it's just going to make that next trick more difficult or sloppy. So being able to link tricks back to back to back to back is pretty key in a half pipe run.
Yeah.
So the more technical you can link tricks, the more effortlessly you can get to the other trick, to the other wall. It's going to help you out.
Hey, what's up, Snowboard Project listeners? I know you're probably sitting on the couch or in the car or somewhere with another friend of yours who is also a snowboarder who is sitting there scrolling on his phone, on his Facebook, on his Instagram, and he has no idea what a podcast is. So here's what I want you to do. Here's the challenge. You need to walk over to your friend, grab his phone, scroll down and find that little purple podcast button that he has no idea has never opened, and I want you to press it. And you are going to do him the biggest favor of his life right now. You are going to subscribe him or her to the Snowboard Project. And then you're going to rate us 5 stars and you're going to throw him his phone back and say, you're welcome. They get to
listen every week to 3 different stories, a couple from, other snowboarders just like them, or maybe an industry person that will give them the great information they want to know about design, or maybe about, marketing themselves, or maybe about just snowboarding and being a competitive snowboarder. And you're also going to get news that's not just past the, next 180 or the 1620. You are going to hear things about the adventure, the friendship, and you are going to hear about the experiences of doing what you love, which is snowboarding. Hit the purple button, subscribe him, rate us, hand the phone back and say, you're welcome.
I know.
Do you think we'll see a 16 in the half pipe?
Yeah, we'll see a 16 in the half pipe one day. I don't know when that day will be, but my guess is yes.
You think we'll see it before the next Olympics? You think that'll be the next thing? You think Ayumu will try that?
I hope not.
I don't know. I only know of people working on 14s at this point. I don't think anybody's seriously considering 16s quite yet.
It seems like the 16 is like when the door opens wide to catastrophic injury, when you're doing that last rotation blind over your shoulder.
Yeah, it's like
trying to spot the landing. It's like, are you going to go 5 feet bigger to have that much more impact if you do mess up? I mean, it's pretty, to me, it's like, I think that half pipe is almost at its limit until it takes a little, maybe a turn. Where do you see half pipe going like 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think that's a funny topic to think about, because every year people say like, oh, I think this is the limit. This is what we've seen.
I've said that before.
I think this is the limit. And then 2 years down the road, the bar just gets pushed up even further than we ever thought. So it's constantly progressing in its own way. Mm-hmm. So in 5 years down the line, I think it's going to be, boosted from what today is. Where it goes necessarily is not decided by viewers. It's kind of just a natural process of who's actually riding in the sport and that personal touch on creativity. And, I do think 12s and 14s are going to be super common.
Yeah.
I think
like back-to-back 10s were a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, I think amplitude standards are going to go up because, a few years ago, 10-foot air was decently big. Nowadays, I think a 10-foot air is pretty stock. You got to be going 15, 16, 17 feet to make it look big. And I think that's only going to get bigger too, where it's going to be approaching, the 20-foot bar.
Right. So what do you focus on when you're like learning? Is it about learning a new trick? Is it about building the amplitude? Is it about coming up with something that has its own unique style? It doesn't look like the way that anyone else would do, like a double Michael Chuck or something like that. How do you like weigh those, and what do you focus on?
It's really a mix of all three of those things. Like when thinking about a new trick. So for instance, I've been really thinking about front 12s lately. Mm-hmm. And it's like, of course I want to do it big and stylish and unique in my own way. So as matching it with the technicality of the spin, I'm just trying to, focus on my smooth line going into it, doing it as big and effortlessly as possible. And
right.
Yeah, it's just a mix, and being creative, putting your own personal touch on tricks is the way to kind of stand out, I believe.
Yeah. So which guys do you think are like you look up to the most, or like which guys do you like kind of are always watching when they drop in? Like you're strapping in, you're looking down, all of a sudden Hirano like drops in, you're like, oh, stop strapping in, check this out. Who are you watching?
Yeah, the guys I'm watching in the half pipe from day to day definitely include Ayumu, Scotty, Ben, Jake, Gabe, Sean. I just try to watch my friends as well as some of these guys that are really pushing the bar to kind of see what they're up to, see how they're riding the pipe. Because from day to day, the pipe changes, the variable conditions happen.
Right.
So, if they're riding something a little odd, maybe I'll take notes on, there's that little bump in the flat bottom, this and that. But then besides from that, it's really cool just to watch Ayumu go chuck some massive flip in the pipe. You're like, dang, that was pretty cool.
Right.
What do your next 4 years look like? Just kind of leading into the next, kind of your career leading up to the Olympics. I mean, what are you working on, and what are you personally going to try to achieve by that time? I guess.
What's your run? 2022
Yeah.
Beijing. What's your run look like?
It's hard to think. I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, how do I want to mix my run up? And every single year I try to like mix it up a little, have a different variation in there. I don't really like to be doing the same run every single contest. I
right.
like to mix it up where I can, and So I'm on the U.S. snowboard team again this year. It's looking like I'll probably be around for the next 4 years training with them. So they definitely have me on the contest circuit. 5, 6, 7 contests a year. Keeping busy on the training regiment.
Yeah.
So looking into Beijing, I would like to go again, but it really is year to year. And this snowboard team going for the Olympics is not written in stone. All of those athletes have to earn their spot the year of the Olympics, season of the Olympics. So it's really just going to take time and, a little bit of progression, just down the line.
So would you say your main goal is to reach that Olympic mark again before, doing, filming for a movie or filming for, films or a series or something?
It's hard to say. I think my mindset going into this Olympics was actually a mindset that helped me tremendously. And that was not putting too much pressure on myself to make the team. I was honest with myself. I'm saying, okay, I think I have the capability to make the team, but it's also a very difficult thing to do. And there's a ton of talent gunning for those 4 spots. So I was like, honest with myself. I'm like, okay, I might not make the team, and that's going to be okay with me if I don't, because I didn't want to feel disappointed or let down should I not made the team. And I almost didn't make the team because it came down to the 4th and final qualifying event for me to gain enough points. So that was a crazy moment for me.
Yeah, but maybe you should will you explain that moment actually?
So I was tied for 5th in Olympic points with Gabe Ferguson, and Danny Davis was sitting in 4th.
Right.
So it pretty much came down to the last contest in Mammoth.
Yeah.
I had to beat Gabe and Danny and finished 1st or 2nd.
No pressure.
Yeah,
no pressure there. So I was like, okay, 1 contest left. I got to beat Danny and Gabe and finish 1st or 2nd. All right. But it also was kind of a good thing. It was like there was that pressure, but at the same time, it also gave me a sense of feeling that, okay, I have nothing to lose at this point because either I'm not going to go or I'm going to give it everything I have. I'm going to do well, and maybe there's a chance I go. So I just really put it out there on the line. I was feeling good going into that event and, managed to land some runs. And,
it was your first run, wasn't it? Your first run in that
event? It was my first run of the finals that put me into first place, and it luckily held for the rest of the event.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool event, actually, for everyone except for Danny Davis, who had a pretty rough go with that night.
Unfortunately, Danny took a pretty heavy slam.
He did. He had that same kind of pressure you had, though. It was like, there was 1 spot left on the team, so it was do or die for you, do or die for Danny, do or die for Gabe. Danny almost died. You made it, and Gabe almost made it.
Yeah, I think it pretty much could have came down to Danny, me, or Gabe. Gabe probably would have had to have won and beat both of us. Danny probably would have had to podium and beat both of us because he already had 2/3.
Right.
But I was sitting on 2 4th place finishes, which was pretty much at the edge of not good enough.
Yeah. It's like you have to be a statistician to know. It's like, okay, I need to get a podium, but also beat them and them. But if he beats me and I get a podium I still don't make it. Right? You have to really, it's like it's pretty technical when it comes down to that last event, especially, who's going to actually make it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Did they actually have like a coach's discretion as well, or no? No coach discretion?
There is a coach's discretion spot.
Okay.
So that 4th spot was open to discretion, but it wasn't used. Everyone earned their spots based on points, I believe.
Okay. Would you be like really mad if like somebody that you like beat all season got chosen as coach's discretion and you didn't get to go? like what if they're like, you know what, we're gonna go with Gabe. We just kind of think Gabe's kind of cool. Would you be like kind of mad and you're like on the team together?
That might have been the emotion,
salty.
but luckily it didn't even come to that. So
yeah. No, you got a good squad though. Ricky Bauer is like an amazing coach, and he was a great competitor. Actually, I don't know if you were old enough back then to watch him compete, but he was pretty good.
No, Ricky's the man. We're lucky to have him as head coach right now.
Yeah, totally.
Should we talk more about the Olympics, or should we turn the corner on this?
Turn the corner. It's up to you, Beef.
I mean, we got to talk. I mean, we could talk about Pyeongchang and what that was like. Just
we should talk about the experience.
Yeah, the experience. Why don't you just
Yeah.
You know, how was it?
How scared were you walking into that, wearing that United States flag and knowing that Donald Trump was looking at you?
Yeah, we all had a few thoughts about what was going to happen at Olympic ceremonies. We're like, all right, we got Trump as president. We're in Korea, and there's this giant Super Bowl arena of all these U.S. athletes. Like,
yeah.
Hopefully nothing bad happens.
Right.
But that, nothing, everything was fine.
North Korea had been threatening nuclear war for like 6 months, leading into it. Like
we were all joking. Too. We're like, if this is the time for anything, it's probably going to happen here, right? Like,
I woke up one morning there at like 4 a.m. and someone set off the fire alarm in my building. It was like, it was like an air warning siren. It was like pretty scary. And I was like, screw it. If it's time to go, it's time to go.
Wow.
Lived a full life so far. Screw it.
It's time to go.
when they punch your ticket, they take your card.
Now, did you walk out with the team at like opening ceremonies and do all that stuff?
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Just,
It was pretty cool. They kind of line up the countries in some particular order. And the U.S. team, I think, is one of the largest teams at the Olympics. So there was almost, I think, 242 U.S. athletes competing over in Korea. So we had a huge squad roll out onto the arena. And it was like this big circle that you'd go walk a lap on. And for the other countries that were smaller, they would have like 3 or 4 countries all out there on the arena, being that there was enough space for those guys. But the U.S. team took up the entire arena. So it was cool that we took up such a presence in that opening ceremonies. And it was pretty funny. We were standing there and we're like, all right, how do we get TV time on this with all these athletes dressed in the exact same outfit? We're like, all right, we got to stand next to Sean. So me and Ben and Jake were like, all right, we're just going to stick with Sean right here. Because we're on the same team, bro. We're the half-pipe team. But it was also our idea, like, all right, we're going to stick with Sean because we know he's going to get some TV time. Sure enough, we're like, get the TV time next to Sean. We're like, all right, so it worked. Strategic, yeah.
No, were you able to? You came out like in like some Ralph Lauren polo outfit, I'm sure. Were you able to? Do you still have that, or did you? I've heard of people just like eBaying those for like $5,000 or whatever.
No, I still have all of the like uniform stuff.
That's how you meet girls. You wear that uniform out in like LA or New York.
But I was hearing that people that were selling it that week of the Olympics were selling like stuff for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It's like,
but I always thought it was kind of cool just to hold on to. So I kept everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a question for you. Real talk. You ready?
Let's hear it.
So I've heard that the athlete village is like a huge orgy. Is that true? Is that like everyone sleeping with each other in the athlete village? Because I've heard that actually for many Olympics now. So I'm wondering.
Didn't you stay in the athlete village?
No, I've never stayed in the. I'm not even allowed in there. That's not for media people.
Oh, really?
The orgy is private, only for athletes.
Unfortunately, that was not my experience of the village. I've heard
there'd be like some real benefits of being on the U.S. Olympic team.
So for those who don't know, like Pyeongchang is literally in the middle of nowhere. Like you would think that it's a city or something, but there's nothing out there. It's just a name on a map. Right. And I think there was a bit of a different vibe than maybe the village in Toronto at the the 10 Olympics.
Yeah. So okay. I mean, I heard that and I was like, wow, they have like bowls full of condoms and like all the dormitories and like stuff like that. Is that true?
No, it was not like that. I don't know what happened.
There's rumors because we're not actually allowed in there, so they just like the stories just probably snowball.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a story? Are there any crazy stories from the athletes village?
Yeah, let's hear a crazy story.
Oh, he's got one.
I know. Like, no holding back. Real talk.
Real talk.
Crazy story. Well, Tinder pretty much sponsored everybody in the village, so they upgraded all of our Tinder accounts to
they
like
upgraded mine too.
So it
Tinder Gold or whatever.
It wasn't an orgy chase. Bullshit.
No. So I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm totally right, but with Tinder Gold, you can like change your location pretty much, so you can swipe for people not being in the area that you are. Or some reason, something like that. So all of a sudden we're just like swiping on these chicks that like may or may not have been in Pyeongchang. We're like not really sure.
Yeah.
And then my buddy starts talking to this one chick and then she's like, yeah, I want like a threesome, this and that. And then pretty
Two
soon,
Olympians and one non.
He starts like kind of trying to see it through, and then he starts like hitting her up on Instagram, and then she hits him up back, and he's like, "Oh, if you're talking to my Tinder account, like that's not me, like that's a fake account." So we kind of started realizing that there maybe were these catfishers out there, crazy people just trying to like, I don't know, man, it was crazy.
Did you call them catfishers?
Yeah, that's
Have you
what they're
seen the
called,
show
I think.
Is that what
Catfish?
they're, no.
Catfish is
like
like
fakers,
it's like fakers,
right?
like
Yeah.
you start like pursuing somebody online, and then it's like you have fake photos of somebody else or something.
So what you're telling me is basically when I swiped left on Lindsey Vonn, I wasn't even swiping left on her. It was like her alter ego.
It could have been some 40-year-old Korean dude. I don't know.
That's bullshit, man. I was like, yes, fuck you, Lindsey Vonn. You hate snowboarders. Left.
Yeah, I ain't swiping right for her either.
Yeah, I thought about it actually. I had to think twice, but I went left. Yeah.
So the actual competition, Pyeongchang, what was that like? What was that moment for you? You're up there, you've worked pretty much your whole life to get to this one moment, and you're standing on the top of the half pipe in this arena. What is that like for you?
It was a pretty special moment. Standing up there, it actually felt similar to any other competition, just because there was so like select number of people even allowed to the top of the arena. So being up there, it wasn't crowded. You didn't really see anybody that you shouldn't have been seeing. So it was just like the people you usually see, like the competitors, coaches, staff. And so that moment felt pretty normal. Looking down into the pipe, then you see like the big stage at the bottom, and you're like, okay, this is it. You got the camera. It actually was the biggest drop-in platform I've ever been in, like so much space.
No way.
So it was pretty crazy, but it was actually super cool just how perfect the half pipe was. I'm saying it right now. That was the best half pipe I've ever ridden in my entire life. Cool. And I think everyone probably will agree with that statement.
Wow.
They were just so well prepared for that moment, and luckily enough, it was cold in Korea that whole month, so they were well ahead of schedule on snowmaking. The pipe cutter was killing it, and it really just allowed for some of the best half pipe riding I think the world's ever seen. And I think every single person in the finale of that event probably put down one of their best runs of their life. And that extends true for me. I put down probably one of the best runs I've ever done. So I was just so proud of that. It wasn't perfect. There was a few things I probably could have cleaned up, but at the end of the day, it was still
top 6.
It was a top 6 run at the Olympics, So I scored, I think, in 89 or something, and finished 6th place. And that I was just so proud because I didn't really go into that.
Though it was so sick.
I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm gonna go win today. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to go out there and snowboard and land some runs, and that's exactly what I did. So I was just so psyched on that.
What was going through your head like before you dropped in for that first qualifying run? Now it's like, okay, they're going to give me a score for the first time here at the Olympics. Did it mess with your head at all compared to like Grand Prix or US Opens or other events, big events that you've been in X Games? Did it mess with your head like before you dropped in and like you knew all the cameras were watching and all the ladies were watching? It's
actually like the qualifying at the Olympics. There's fewer riders there than at maybe a normal Grand Prix.
Right.
And so, and the qualifying runs are always the most nerve-wracking, I think, just because it's like your goal to make it to finals. And usually in my mindset, I was like, okay, if I can just land the run I want to do, I don't think it should be a problem, and I should make it to the finals. So it's always a little more nerve-wracking then. And I fell my first run of qualifiers. I was just so nervous. I went to do a switch crippler and did a cab 7 in the middle of my run. like second hit, I did front double 10. The goal was front double 10, switch crippler, switch chuck, cab double 10, front 9, dub chuck or something like that. Like switch crippler, like one of the easier tricks in a qualifying run. And I just got a little anxious and did cab 7 second hit of my run, which totally threw everything off. And I'm like, literally landed a cab 7. I'm like, wait a sec, this is so wrong right now. Like, what am I doing? And then, so that run didn't score at all. And I was sitting outside of the finals going into my second run. And I was really, really nervous for that run for sure. Just because I was like, I don't want to just blow this moment right now.
Right.
I want to get to the real show, the real finals where everyone's watching, where you can really just send it. And so I was super nervous. Jake and I both fell first run of qualifiers. We're sitting at the top for our second run, and we're just like, "All right, dude, we got this. Like, no worries. We're gonna land, bro. Like, like it's nothing, And we both put it down second run, made the finals. And that was like such a relief and a weight off our shoulders that going into the finals day, I had less pressure, less nerves, more excitement.
Right.
Just feeling 10 times better going into finals, knowing that I've already accomplished what I wanted to do. And that was make finals at the Olympics.
Okay.
My goal wasn't to win. So I was like, I've already accomplished what I wanted to do. So going into that finals day, I was just feeling really relaxed, feeling good. And I put down 2 of the best runs I've ever done. So
Yeah.
And I remember riding the lift with Ben and Jake going up to the finals day, and we were just talking. We're like, guys, like, we're doing it. Like, we're here. Like, we made the finals. We're in Korea. We're competing for USA. Like, we've done it. Like, it doesn't matter what happens at this point.
Yeah.
And we all were just like so stoked. We like gave each other a hug. We're like, let's go get it. Like, let's fucking shred. And, you know, every one of us put down some really insane runs.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, it was really incredible. Really, the whole contest was, I would say, the best half pipe contest ever. But aside from the contest part, tell me a story about like just one of your favorite experiences, either culturally or meeting different athletes, or just an experience you had in Korea that was new and exciting for you as an athlete.
Well, we almost got kicked out of the village after the event. That's kind of an interesting
that
story.
sounds like snowboard style. Do tell.
That's kind of been swept under the rug a little bit.
Well, how did that happen?
Let's go into that.
How dare they? By the way, how dare they?
So we finished our event, and then we still had about a week until closing ceremony. So we're just really excited that we finished our event. Everyone's healthy. Like, we did what we came to do. So then we're like looking into other events that we could go watch. And so one night we take a bus down to the coastal village, and we get tickets to this hockey game.
Oh, nice.
And so we go down there earlier in the morning, and we go check this women's game, and then we spend the rest of the afternoon chilling, kind of sightseeing the other village down there on the water, and then we go to this like 9 p.m. men's hockey game.
Right.
And you know, so we're excited. We're stoked. So we get a few beers going.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't a guy?
Yeah, I mean, hey, dude, pressure off. What's
Pressure-
the drinking age in Korea?
It's
Who knows, right?
who knows, but technically we're under U.S. law at that point.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you're on the U.S. team.
So we're on the
You're
U.S. team,
ambassador
so
of the
it's so it's 21. So I'm
But
fine.
He's
You're
21.
22. Yeah,
So
yeah,
Ben and I are
totally cool.
good, but we're with Jake, who was 19 at the time.
Right,
So
kinda
that's
sneak
kind
him
of
some beer.
So we're sneaking him some beer, and everything's fine. We go to this hockey game, and then we're coming back into security into the coastal village. You got to go through security every time,
Right.
just to get back into the bus zones and this and that. And we're going through security. We're a little lubed up, feeling good, and we're going through security, and we Ben and Jake kind of like stole some lightsabers from some traffic security guys down there. So
Okay.
there was like a ton of people leaving the hockey arena. So there's these security guys like with these wands,
Yeah.
kind of directing traffic, this and that. And Jake like found one laying on the ground. So he put it in his jacket, and then it turned into just Star Wars going through the security, you know, just like lightsabering each other. And
And the Koreans didn't appreciate that.
well, not necessarily. So then our Canadian buddy Derek Livingston starts filming it
Oh.
in the security
International incident.
international incident. So the real issue was that we ended up filming a security guard, and apparently that's where we went wrong. Apparently that's pretty undermining to the Korean culture to film somebody of higher personnel working. So there was an issue with the footage.
Culturally insensitive.
For filming these guys. But that's something that we actually really didn't know. So we were being a little rowdy, but that really wasn't even the problem.
Yeah,
so we're
stealing the lightsabers, drinking the beer. None of that was a problem. It was
Filming.
where we went
5-second
wrong.
clip of a security
Where we
guard.
went wrong was like filming these security guards, and then it came up in the morning. Like they reported it to the to our U.S.
Okay, well, just take a second. Look at
contact,
the cameras. Is there
and then-
anyone you want to apologize to right now?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
So we wake up in the morning and we get texts from Abby Nyberg, Jeremy Forrester, Ricky Bauer, like, delete all the footage that you have. And I'm like really confused. Like, wait, we were like pretty good last night. Like we were chill. Like, and then we found out that the issue was that we filmed these guys, and so we had to go back down to the coastal village and apologize to this officer.
You already made your apology. You don't have to do it second.
Yeah, we apologized already. So, but then the Canadian guys, Derek and Mercedes, got wrapped up in our drama too, and the Canadian team was way more mad at those guys. And
really,
they were more just guilty by association. It was definitely like me, Ben, and Jake causing the drama.
Interesting. But Canadians are known to be nice, and Americans are known to be a little more reckless. So I can see that happening.
Yeah. So Abby was pretty bummed at us because we were taking time away from her and making her deal with our drama. And so we go down and we apologize to these officers, and then they're telling us like, we're here to accept your apology. Your actions are, justifiably, we could expel you from the Olympics. We could send you home, this and that. But we're here to accept your apology, and we can move forward without any serious actions. And so we all apologized. And it was just, they warned us about this type of scenario going into the games, and they called it the ripple of disturbance. Just how
is that a technical term?
Yeah, it is. It really is the ripple of disturbance. They call it that. It's pretty much the butterfly effect. Like one action just blows up into a million actions.
So it would have been a tsunami had it been North Korea bombing, and you guys were a ripple.
We were a ripple. So we totally got it buffed out, swept under the rug. Everything was fine. It really wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
They sent the Canadian guys home for.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they sent Mercedes and Derek home because they were hanging out with us. They allowed us to stay.
Wow.
But then at that point, we still had like 5 more days. And there's not much to do in that village. It was pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And we all kind of came to the census that we're either going to be going bored silly or we're going to be causing some more trouble.
Yeah.
So we left early.
You go to Japan and ride POW or something like that?
No, we just got out of there.
So you didn't go to closing ceremonies?
Unfortunately, no. That was the idea, but we'd already been there for like 2.5 weeks.
Right.
And it was just kind of when you're in Europe too long, you just want to get home. It was that kind of feeling. So... we just got out of there.
Hey folks, if you're tuning in to us still, please take a minute to go to Patreon.
Wait.
What?
Is there like some question that they wouldn't still be tuning in?
Well, if they're still listening, they can go to patreon.com/the Snowboard Project.
But you're still staying still.
Still.
Like they
might
not
have
have
just
even
listened
made
to
it
the
this
first
far.
5 minutes. Yeah, they might not have made it this far. So.
Okay.
But I just want, if you're still listening, okay, if you're listening, go to patreon.com/the Snowboard Project, and we're going to count on you guys to support an independent voice in snowboarding media. It's how we're going to keep this thing advertising free and have a voice that is not affected by the advertisers.
Talk to me just a little bit about, who's your crew? Who are your favorite people to ride with and why? Yeah.
The tight crew right now is Jake and Gabe. Like they have us living together on the road right now. So that's pretty much the crew on the US
Does anyone
snowboard
snore
team.
like really loud?
I think we all probably do.
Okay, just checking. Sometimes it's not easy to have roommates or saying.
Jake and I usually room together the most, and it's pretty much like, I just wake me up if we're snoring, and I'm like,
who's the big spoon?
Oh, we switch.
Okay. So those are your guys. Do you have like a free riding crew when you're just here at home or on the road, or are you traveling mostly with those guys? So that's pretty much your crew.
That's the crew when I'm on the road with the half pipe team. When I'm here at home, it's really cool to get out with the Caldwell brothers.
Yep.
Spencer Cordovano, Pat Lee, the whole local KSA crew here.
You got a sled here. You know how to ride snowmobiles and stuff.
Yeah, and we all got sleds here, so it's fun to go up over the pass over Galena.
Yeah.
And prop it up a little bit.
Yeah. So like, as you're growing up and looking up to riders, who are your top like 3 riders of all time? Like, who are the guys that you have as like the trinity of awesome riders that you look up to?
I think I would probably put Travis Rice, Kazu, Brandon Cocard, are some of my favorite riders.
Not so much half pipe guys. Well, 2 of the 3 anyway.
Well, there's been like Ross Powers, a half pipe rider. I've definitely looked up to him. Way back in the day, Auntie Auti was like the
first back-to-back 10s.
Killer half pipe rider. I remember him doing front 10 back cab 10, and I was like, that's insane.
That's possible.
That's possible. I didn't even know about that then.
Yeah, totally.
No, I just really look up to like riders that can do it all, and I think those riders include half pipe riders and backcountry riders.
Sure, yeah.
And I think a good half pipe rider can do backcountry, and a good backcountry rider should be able to do half pipe. So
okay.
Let's fast forward like a few years in your life, like 4 or 5 years down the line. Let's say the Olympics are kind of past. What's your next kind of step, I guess, in your career as a snowboarder? Or is that what your goal is? Or do you get to go back to school? What's kind of your next plan?
Long term.
I mean, I want to be snowboarding for as long as I can, and I'm really looking down the line, and I want to get more into filming, and I would love to do a video part and just get more into the backcountry scene and filming and stuff. And I have had my foot in the door locally doing that here, but just with the amount of traveling I do for half pipe, it kind of takes away time from seriously committing to that backcountry film project.
Sure.
So what I've been filming, it's all just kind of passion stuff with friends or this and that. It hasn't been anything too committing, but yeah, looking into the future, I definitely would like to get more into a video part and to have my name be in the history of snowboarding, and that'd be pretty awesome.
What are you looking at me for?
I'm just looking at you. I figured you had a great next question.
No, I didn't actually. I was like thinking you had another question. I got tons of questions.
Yeah, throw a question out there.
Okay, so I was going to go through my top threes of a bunch of different things because I think that's a quick way to like actually get like a lot of information so people can get to know you a little bit. Like let's say top 3 riders we already covered.
So I just bit you a little bit on that.
These are the hard questions.
You kind of switched directions on me, and then I was like, okay, Bee's taking the new direction.
It was like deer in the headlights over there. I looked at him and he was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, bro. I had this figured out.
Okay,
so what are your 3 favorite tricks to do?
3 favorite tricks.
Yeah. To do yourself.
I do love just a classic backside indie in the half pipe. You don't even see just indie.
Yeah, indie.
Indie. Jump trick, maybe like back 5, switch back 5 or something like that. Just and then I don't know. I do love the Michael Chucks in the half pipe. That's like a good.
That's kind of your money maker too. It's nice when you can make money and enjoy
or just a nice front 3 on a jump. That's it. Just feels so good.
Yeah. Okay, so then how about top 3 resorts, like top 3 places to ride?
Top 3 definitely include Sun Valley, Jackson Hole, and Locks in Switzerland.
Ooh, so 2 domestic, 1 international destination. Okay. Okay. How about let's see, top 3 bands. Just trying to get some cultural, beyond snowboarding, even like bands. Like let's get a picture here. Let's paint a picture of
bands. Are so hard to come up with a favorite. I mean, dude, I don't even know where to start.
You're looking at me.
You're the music guy.
I know. Chase, just so everybody knows, he walked into the hotel today and just picked up the guitar and started playing.
I walked in and he was playing guitar, so I figured that would be a good question.
I mean, Pink Floyd is probably one of the all-time guitar rock.
So you're like into the classic rock, hippie kind
of like classic rock, more punk rock.
Okay.
Stuff on that
favorite
side.
Punk band.
Punk band? I mean, I did see Agent Orange live last year. Locally.
Agent
they played
Orange.
at
they played at the brewery.
Yeah. So they're a pretty good punk rock band. I've just been listening to like a lot of hip hop kind of rap lately.
Okay. What's your favorite rapper? We might have to end this interview early if you give us the wrong answer, by the way.
I mean, I think one of the all-time greatest, Lil Wayne.
Okay.
He just came out with the Carter 5.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, if he said like
the Carter 5 was pretty sick, and he's like one of those rappers that like, there's like those rappers that come out with old music and it's really good, and then they try to come out with new music and it like they try to redefine themselves and then they just kind of blow it.
Yeah.
I think Lil Wayne kind of has been consistent, and he's been at the top of rap since like I even first started listening to rap music when I was like 10. Like 2006, he was still doing it, and now he's still at the top right now.
Okay, so what's your face tattoo going to be?
Go a little Post Malone, like always tired under the. No, I don't know. no face tats or anything.
How about 3 favorite videos? 3 favorite snowboard videos.
Oh, dude, what's this one? I just watched it the other day. I forget. It's old. Well, we were watching.
That doesn't narrow it down very much.
Mike Michalchuk's Momentum part, or is that
Momentum? I think that was I think that might have been it. Yeah, Momentum,
and which was pretty sick video.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe shout out to the Beta movie that came out this year. A bunch of the friends are in that this year, so they put in a lot in a and killed that.
You're like, hey, I want a part in the next Beta.
Yeah, I need a part in that.
The snowboarder video that you were in, what year was that? That was like 2 years ago, right? Kind of 3 years.
That was a bit ago.
It was a bit ago.
And I didn't even really have a part in that. I was just kind of in the intro, just a little bit. So it was just a tease.
It was still sick,
what's
though.
to come. Yeah.
Just I think you did like a huge method, and Ferguson might have sprayed you or something.
Yeah. Or Hans.
Yeah.
Oh, then I remember watching Picture This. That was like the one video I watched on repeat growing up.
Okay. How about what's your top 3, Beef? What do you want to?
I think. Okay. I have this love for Simple Pleasures.
Okay.
I just love that video. It's just
we're
like
a little more old school. You're like, what's simple? What are you talking about, Beef? Okay,
yep.
keep going.
And then after Lame and Lame, that whole like just popular. the robot food kind of trilogy or those ones back there. I liked all those ones that those guys did. I like even into like Bike Car was really cool to me.
Okay, so if you could ride for any brand in snowboarding, have another sponsor. Right? What sponsor would it be? If you could have your dream sponsor, who would it be?
Dream sponsor?
Dream sponsor.
Tinder. Just ask for it now.
I know.
I think Bumble's sponsoring people now. No, I'm kidding. But no, that's not what I would... Toyota's been a pretty big name sponsor that seems to picking up a few riders, so that would be a pretty cool one. They think they get like
nice place to park your sled.
Yeah, you get a truck and...
Can I have your old truck?
Yeah, if I get a new free truck from Toyota.
I'm going to hold you to this.
Ooh, it's on tape.
I like that.
World to know.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I don't know. What other dope sponsors are out there right now?
Dope sponsors?
It's interesting. Weed Maps.
Are sponsors hard to come by in snowboarding right now? What's going on
now? Okay, so here's a question.
Yeah.
Speaking of sponsors in snowboarding, so it seems to me there was a time when half-pipe riders were like some of the better paid, more lucrative things in the sport. And once kind of Sean came about and rose up, it was almost like Sean had a corner on like 80% of the money getting poured into snowboard sponsorships. Is it frustrating to see that concentration of like non-endemic sponsors, big money sponsors on only a couple of riders?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of frustrating to see that maybe a decade ago that there was way more flow of money going into these riders. Right. And Sean had Target, Red Bull, Burton back in the day.
Yeah.
And this is rumor, but I heard he signed a 10-year, $10 million Burton deal back in the day. So he's making millions of dollars. And
I think
nowadays,
his net worth is like 50.
And nowadays we always say, snowboarders make hundreds of dollars a year.
Right.
So, I'm not even anywhere near the $1 million mark.
I know. I mean,
so
really,
it's crazy to see how it's changed in sort of a plummeting way. I think we all would really like to be in the limelight a bit more and just, being able to, set your future up, rather than just cover year to year, which is kind of where it's at right now, to like be able to set up a retirement fund through snowboarding. Mm-hmm. Would be ideal, but I think a lot of snowboarders nowadays are really looking for that plan B and that what happens after snowboarding type of thing, because the money's not really coming to a lot of these riders.
Yeah. So, and I'd say there's really only probably a handful of riders that have been able to set themselves up for life, and then some of them have gone into the industry, sales reps or business owners will start a board brand or a company of some kind. But yeah, I'd say it's few and far between the people who've actually been able. It's not like an actual professional athlete where you like play in the NFL, beat the crap out of yourself for 5 or 10 years, and then you're like, okay, now I'm just gonna go hang out. It's like you pretty much are gonna have to have a career after snowboarding. Have you thought about a career after snowboarding?
I've thought about the idea and that question a lot, but to pinpoint it down on that exact thing, the answer of that question kind of eludes me at this point. I've been real focused on the task at hand these last few years. So, I'm just in the moment, just kind of living right now, just snowboarding as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. So what would be like those like goals that you have for yourself? Like, okay, so let's say one goal would be to have like, a retirement plan, but like as far as like actual goals in the sport, as far as riding goes, is like, I'm going to win an Olympic gold medal. I'm going to win the X Games back to back. I mean, what are your goals in the sport of snowboarding? Having I want a pro model. There's a good goal for a lot of pros, Pro
model definitely is one. Video part, another. I think X Games gold would be a pretty special moment.
That could be this year.
Could be this year.
Could also not be this year.
Might not. Olympic gold is a weird thing to think about. Would it be amazing to get? Yes, but I know how hard that probably is to achieve. And even if you are the most talented rider, to do it at that moment, is rare.
The stars really have to align.
Everything
because it's
has
like
to
one
align.
fraction of a second. One.
So I'm not putting like too much stress on an Olympic gold, but if X Games, US Open, Tour, like I do want some success in these events that I'm competing in. It's not like I just want to get beat at all these events. But there is more to snowboarding than just winning, So like you said, like video part, pro model, X Games, just to be a recognized name within the snowboard world would be really cool. And just to be like respected as one of the best snowboarders to come out of Idaho in the world, that would be special. Cool. I know there's so much talent and diversity in the sport, and it's kind of biased on what you favor and what type of riding you like. But, if my name could be spoken in any one of those scenarios, I think that'd be a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, because some people would be like, I want a video game named after me. I want my own flavor of gum.
Shut up, Sean.
Okay.
Seriously, God, Sean.
I want every NBD named after
JP?
me.
JP, shut your mouth, JP.
Okay, keep going. Keep asking questions.
Okay, looking back at your life, like from the first day you got on a snowboard to where you are now, arguably like one of the top 5-10, pro halfpipe riders in the world. What has been the key to your success? If you could name like 2 or 3 things, what have been the main, drivers in your own life that have got you to this point where you're at now?
I think I've had a lot of positive influence coming out of Sun Valley and some really good mentors that I've met along the way and coaches. I gotta give it up to Andy Gilbert, who's been a big positive influence on my career. He was my snowboard coach in high school, and still just a mentor to this day. And
your coach too, right, Beef?
He was my coach. He smashed a beer on my head once.
As your coach
in Mammoth. Yeah,
it doesn't sound very coachly.
Well, we were drinking beers in the room and on a snowboard.
So what you're saying is when you're on the Sun Valley snowboard team, you drink beer on the road?
It happened once, and I was like 17, But anyway, sorry, that wasn't. I shouldn't have said that. I just took that away. But seriously, it happened. But Gilbert, Gilbert is a great coach, and that was more of a teaching moment for Gilbert and myself.
Exactly, and he was always a big motivator and influencer on just life lessons. It's always more than snowboarding for him. And although he grew up skating and snowboarding, like that's his lifestyle, but you learn so much more about yourself and about friends and just day-to-day things through snowboarding. And I just think I learned a lot about myself and competing and what it means to be a snowboarder. And growing up here in Idaho, we weren't always training halfpipe. We were free riding. We're just cruising with friends. And I think that type of mentality transfers a lot over into halfpipe,
right? And
then back into the free riding. So it's kind of like you train A to get better at B, and then vice versa.
Right. Do you think Gilbert? Do you think he cries easy?
Yeah, he's a softie.
I was watching the
kind of question is that?
I was watching it's like run at Mammoth and Gilbert's at the top giving him a hug, and he's just like, you can just tell he's just like he's crying, his eyes are all red, his cheeks are red.
He just cares a lot, so it's cool. So I appreciate that.
Good to know. Next time I see him, I'll pull a tissue out and give it to him. Chase is gonna go do good today. Here's a hanky. You could borrow my hanky.
Talk to me about your parents' influence, because they were very heavily vested in your career. I mean, they were most certainly just about at every competition growing up. I mean, I traveled with them a couple times out to regionals or nationals or wherever.
Yeah, that's very true. My mom and dad were supportive since day one, and even more so,
Chris and Bill Josey.
Chris and Bill, they've really done a lot for me and been able to give me the opportunities to travel. And, I remember my dad like driving me around to every single USASA event when I was in like middle school. And, then in high school when I was like 15, 16, you're going through those weird transitions of just basic life things. And I'm questioning if I want to be a pro snowboarder. What do I want to do? Am I good enough? This and that. My mom like really was like a good influence. Like keep with it. Like you can do this if you want. And
sure.
And then pretty soon I'm on the U.S. snowboard team and they're still supporting me. And then my mom's at the bottom of the half pipe when I won the Mammoth Grand Prix, and she's crying too. And it's just like she was so happy for me at that moment, and I just like it was cool to see that type of thing.
Totally. Yeah, I know they've always been supportive. We've always, Mark, you've seen them just about everything, huh?
Yeah. They go to a lot of all the Grand Prix. I'd say almost all of them.
They don't. Anyway. They do good at giving me my space when I need. I don't think they show up at every single event.
Right.
They're not quite like the over the top, like
helicoptering.
They're not helicoptering me, and they're not at the top of the half pipe. They're not coaching me.
Your dad's not also your wax tech?
No, not even. I mean, maybe he waxed my board back in the day, but they do a good job of playing their part of supportive parents and not trying to overstep that line. And
it's interesting because some parents are like that, and they almost like push their kids. They push their kids into the sport, but they push them so far into it actually pushes them out of the sport too.
Right. Yeah.
And do you see that a lot, kind of?
Yeah, I don't want to like name any names, but there are a few parents out there that, I see like my buddy's dad at the top of the pipe, or like, we'll say, Chloe Kim's dad has done a great job of preparing her, and, he's one of the most supportive parents as well. Like, not taking anything away from John, but, I think sometimes if that was my dad, that would be a little over the top for me. But, Chloe's now an Olympic gold medalist, so it's hard to say if that's wrong or right. I mean,
and she was also younger. I mean, she started at 14 on the Grand Prix and traveling, and so you're not really as equipped at 14.
No,
to travel.
you need
like
your
18.
parents to be traveling.
Yeah.
Where I was 18 when I first started traveling with the team, so it was a moment where I was like, finally had my own space, and I'm like, you know what, Mom, Dad, I got this right now.
Right.
Like, I'll
Did
see
they
you
have a
when I
hard
get
time
back.
breaking off? They're like, no, you don't. You don't have it yet.
No, they're good because I'm still living at home, so I come back to them like all the time. I'm like, come back to the fridge and
waffles or pancakes this morning, Chase.
No, it's not quite like that, but yeah.
Where were you last night?
Do you have to answer?
Don't lie to that. Give me a hug. You smell like booze.
Ooh, okay. So, you got any more questions, Beeve?
I don't know. We went through quite a lot here.
We did. Do you have any questions for Beeve?
Do you have any questions for me?
That you've been wondering about the Beeve that you'd like to ask him?
Anything right now? Any question?
Any question?
What's the New Year's Eve hot water band?
Oh, what's the New Year's Eve hot water band? Ooh,
just getting into advertising here.
Yeah.
We're getting into a very gray area here.
At the Hot Water Inn at 8:00 on December 31st, there will be a party. It will be the most epic party of Sun Valley.
Is there a band? No
Yeah,
band?
there is.
Okay.
No, I believe we have a band called Strange Hotels out of Oregon.
Yeah.
And then this
Good
guy
band,
named
actually. I like that band.
Aaron Golay and Nothing But Heroes.
Oh, yeah, that guy's awesome, too.
He shreds. He's good.
Yeah, good
those
singer.
are two, and I'm sure there'll be a third one. I'm just not sure what that is. Sheepers Jumpers, maybe. I don't
And
know.
it's like, what, $500 a night?
No, I think we're gonna do it like it'll be like a kegger. It'll be like $25 or $30 for to come in, and you'll just get a drink all the beer until it's gone. And,
I was thinking about like the hotel rooms. Like accommodations are expensive. I was trying to sell some hotel rooms for you too.
like $120, $130.
Sold.
Or if you want a hostel bed. Anyways, we need to stop talking about this.
Okay,
This is too much of a
That's really awkward, Beef. I didn't think you'd actually like take that that lure and like really swallow it. So, but you did.
Yeah, he wanted to know what the bands were.
That was true. Okay.
I had to throw it at him. What we should think of one really great deep question to give Chase right now, Mark. What is that?
Okay, so here's a deep question. I was talking to Andy Wright, did an interview with him, and so his opinion is like snowboard halfpipe is probably the most dangerous aspect of snowboarding compared to street, compared to rails, compared to backcountry. And I know you could kill yourself doing any one of those. And the street guys think the street is the worst. And the big mountain guys are like, I could die on any run. But the fact of the matter is, you could die, like, well, not even die, but like you could have like a life-altering injury just in a fraction of a second, a little lapse. Do you ever feel fear riding the half pipe number one? Is that like something that you like acknowledge that it is dangerous, or are you kind of like, okay, well, this is what I do, and or do you even see it as dangerous, or is it just something you do? Talk about the risk and the risk management involved with being a top-level half-pipe competitor.
Yeah, there definitely is that risk factor, and that's something that's very present in my thought process of riding. But when it comes down to it, when you're lapping the half pipe, you're training, you're getting ready for the contest before, you really have to block out that fear and kind of channel it into motivation and drive to like pushing the limits and feeling that excitement, because that your adrenaline gets pumping like through that process of channeling fear into your end goal or whatever it is that you want to do. So there's that risk management, but I think the thing I like about half pipe riding is that it's a very calculated risk management in my mind, being that, you know, if you get the right pop, you're going to make it back into the transition, and whether or not you land perfectly, you should be all right. You know what I'm saying?
It'll catch you anyway.
It'll catch you. The thing, so it's a lot of the training just goes into that takeoff and that set and the pop, and just really figuring that out before anything else, because if you pop too much, you're going to land flat. If you get a really weird early takeoff, you're going to hit the deck.
Right.
And that's where like the injuries really come into play. And but yeah, it's just been something that I've been doing for so long. I think it's kind of second nature to me.
Right.
But yeah, it's gnarly at times. And when the X Games half pipe, it's shimmering from how icy it is under the lights, you know, I just put my music in and put my music as loud as I can so I don't hear that crunching ice sound, because that's like not exactly what I don't want to hear that, you know. I'm like,
so what songs like are you going to listen to, like at the first Grand Prix? What are you going to be listening to? What are you going to be listening to at the X Games this year?
I'm just a big fan of like Spotify Shuffle and just the playlist and just
so you don't have like one song that gets you into that mental
you know,
space.
we ride for like 2 hours at a time, so you can't just pick one song for the whole time. So you got to kind of have a list of songs that you're
okay, good to know. All right, cool.
Right.
All right. Well,
thank you, Chase.
Yeah.
Josey. This has been
sound all right?
enlightening.
dude. Yeah.
It's a good interview.
Yeah.
I think I got to
straight
learn
a
a
little
little
bit.
bit about your character beyond snowboarding, beyond Tinder.
What, did you swipe?
Have you seen me on Tinder?
Yeah. What's going on?
Actually,
What's going on there?
I don't go that way. No, that's Grindr that I saw you on.
Got it.
Okay,
Chase at the top of the half pipe with his Grindr sticker on his board.
Yeah, it's a good corporate sponsorship. Hey, thank you very much, though, Chase. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's been good.
Right on.
Thanks, Chase.
On behalf of Mark Sullivan and the Beeve, thanks for listening to the Snowboard Project. Remember, ride fast, take chances, dream big, and take action. And for God's sake, don't forget to support advertising-free snowboarding media at patreon.com. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.
Man like Mark Sullivan, worry yourself. Stay tuned for the thrilling episode. Woo!
A positive mental attitude can clear away all obstacles which stand between you and your major purpose in life.
This is the Snowboard Project featuring Mark Sullivan and the Bead. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.
Hey, Beav.
Oh, hey, Mark. I didn't see you there.
Yeah, welcome back to the Snowboard Project.
Oh,
I'm Mark Sullivan.
thank you. I'm the Beef. I'm just here to listen to a podcast.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Are we 50? Are we 51 today?
Yeah, we're 51 today.
Oh my!
Finally, more episodes at my age.
Is that a gray hair on your head?
No, that's coming out of my nose, actually.
Well, we have a pretty youthful one today, right? Or
Not really.
Not really?
He's a company owner.
Oh, he's a company owner.
Yeah, he owns a company called Air Blaster.
Oh, I like Air Blaster.
I do too.
I like Air Blaster because they kind of just like throw a little curveball and say like, this is going to be fun and funny, and then every kid just follows suit.
Right. They put the fun in
put the
snowboarding,
fun
and
in
they really
snowboarding.
focus on just the enjoyment of the sport, having fun with your friends.
Absolutely.
A lot of the ideas that actually we touch on throughout the Snowboard Project. So I really enjoyed doing this interview and have a lot of respect for Jesse.
All right. Well, give me a little backstory on who Jesse Grankowski is.
Well, Jesse was a rider growing up in Montana.
All right.
He first came onto my radar when he was featured on the cover of Snowboard magazine.
He was a cover boy.
Yes, on the second cover, he was riding down tires in Japan.
Okay. All right.
And it was actually one of the best covers ever of Snowboard magazine, for sure.
Wow, coming from you, that's pretty high accolades.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was actually like still to this day, one of my favorite magazine covers ever.
Okay.
So, yeah, but that's how I first met him. And then he was like working on Air Blaster, and Air Blaster, I just have so much respect for that brand, just having fun with the sport of snowboarding like I always have, like I think you do.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So really, it's like this is a really cool interview because we talk about just keeping snowboarding fun.
Yeah, right on. Well, should we roll into it?
Let's do it.
All right, coming at you, episode
51.
Jesse Grankowski.
We're just going to start.
Sweet, man.
Okay,
Let's go for it.
today I'm joined by Jesse Grankowski. And Jesse, he's one of the guys behind the scenes. He started the Air Blaster brand, right? Is that correct?
That's
Jesse?
correct, yeah.
Yeah, so what, 2002, roundabout there?
Yeah, 02, 03.
Okay, but you were
Yeah.
snowboarding before that. You didn't just start a brand and get into snowboarding because you had a brand, did you?
Yeah, I decided that snowboarding looked cool, so I started a brand, and just last year I started to snowboard.
Oh, so you're
it's-
finally riding now?
Yeah,
Good.
it's harder than I thought.
How's the heel edge going?
I got a couple. No, yeah, I started snowboarding back in, let's see, around, I suppose, 1990 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was about 13 or 14. I actually came from a background of cross-country skiing,
Oh,
which is
not your
pretty cool.
typical crossover sport.
No, quite different. Both, snow sports, but I had done that. I had cross-country skied, Nordic skied since I was about 5.
Like racing and stuff,
And-
like competing?
Well, that was it. Once I got up to 12, 13, that age, they were like, "Oh, you've been doing this a long time. Come and compete." And or come race, And I was like, "Oh, sure. I guess this is the next step here. Let's try that." And that's a lot of work, boy. Really, I mean, cross-country skiing is a lot of work, and then when you're trying to go as fast as you can, and beat a bunch of other really, really highly fit maniacs, then
Right.
that wasn't too fun for me. And I think the other thing was that I started trying to catch air on my cross-country skis, and they're just, you can do it, but they're not the best tool.
So
for
is there any
blasting
truth to
air.
the statement, like free your heel, free your mind, something like that?
Yeah, I do have a lot of respect for telliers, and I think that's talk about like really functional forms of transportation in the backcountry. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really good, it's really good for ascending, and I think it's really good for descending if you have the right equipment and you have the right skill set. I definitely respect that. Did you ever see one time I saw the like telly? some sort of telly board though. It was like
like free heel snowboard.
Like the rear heel comes up or something, and I'm like thinking about it like that probably turns one way really well, but I don't know about the
you know, I don't think it ever actually took off that well. It never like took over like as a new genre of winter sports. But you know, to each their own. There's still one guy out there who's like the best telly snowboarder in the world.
When you're only one, you're number one.
Exactly. So this is in Montana, right? You grew up in Montana?
Yeah, I grew up in pretty rural Montana, little town of about 100 people, little sawmill town. Only Montana. Good spot, right in the middle of some
only
beautiful.
Montana's the name of the town.
Yeah, only.
Cool.
And right in the middle of some beautiful nature and of course snow in the winter. And then I always went to school after kindergarten. I always went to school in Whitefish, which most people that are listening probably heard of Whitefish because there's a great resort there that used to be called Big Mountain. Now it's called Whitefish Mountain Resort.
Right.
On the Big Mountain. So.
Yeah, that's like home with the Robinsons, like A-Rob, J-Rob, Andrew Crawford.
Yeah. Travis Parker.
Well, from Texas, but probably became famous.
He wasn't snowboarding a lot in Texas, I don't think.
No. So how did you like get into the snowboarding though instead of like the teleskiing? Because it seems like the teleskiing would have been like a more natural, easier transition for you.
Well, yeah, actually, you know, so I think I was a freshman in high school when I started snowboarding, and which was you know, the same year that Travis moved up from Texas. So we became pretty quick friends, and we both, I think we probably each went about 5 times on our own before we linked up, and then we're learning snowboarding together. But I guess, you know, most of my friends that were in Whitefish grew up actually, you know, alpine skiing, and I did alpine ski for like downhill skied for like, you know, half a year, and I was like, it was pretty funny, you know, because I was pretty gung ho about it, had zero skills, but you know, was I guess not afraid to give her, you know, so I had the wide stance on the skis and pretty heavy snowplow, but my friend just thought it was hilarious. And
snowplow talk.
They'd be like, "Come on, let's go on this thing," and take me down the steepest chutes and you know, get me to hit jumps, and I thought it was fun, and I pick up stuff, you know, decently quick. So it didn't look pretty, but you know, I was trying to get in the air. I guess really, honestly, I mean, it might you know, sound like some sort of plug or something, but you know, I really wanted to blast air. You know, it's true. I just wanted to get into the air, you know, and so couldn't do it on cross country skis. You know, did it a little bit on the downhill skis, and I remember I would like lose and break, you know, rental equipment, and then I had some friends who snowboarded, and I was just like, man, that looks like the coolest thing, and you know, it was kind of a new thing too, and I think I was probably like, you know, when you're you know, a lot of my friends who downhill skied, I was like, they're really good, like they've been doing this since they were 5.
Right, and you're new.
I'm not gonna be able to catch up with this guy. And then snowboarding was kind of this new thing, and it just looked super fun to me, and I had some good friends who did it, and they were like, yeah, come snowboard and check it out. And the rest is kind of history for me, you know.
Right. So did you you started riding a lot with Travis Parker as your buddy. Obviously he became something as a pro rider. You also became like a sponsored rider. Did you have sponsors? Were you competing and doing all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so, you know, when I was growing up, Travis moved up from Texas. We both had never snowboarded before. You know, we were about 13 or 14 there, and started at the same time and came up together. And we're the same age. We're in the same school, and we're just, you know, pretty much best friends in high school because we shared a sense of humor. But I think snowboarding was a part of that as well. And Crawford was a couple years younger than we were. So I remember specifically, you know, when we started and we were that age. So we were like, you know, probably just starting to go through puberty or whatever, you know, and then Crawford was like, he was probably like 11 or 12 at that time. And so he was like a kid, even though he was just like, you know, 2 years younger than we were. And he was also from Kalispell. So we never went to school together. And so I remember being up there and we'd be, you know, this is the days of like, Crawford, I remember he had a Nitro Fusion 146 and a the black Plain-Sane cone hat, which I think we all had at that era. And he was still pretty tiny. He was still like kid size. And he had a couple years, I think he had grown up downhill skiing And then he had started snowboarding a couple years before we had, and he's a really good skateboarder too. So when Travis and I were starting at about 13, we would, once we got a certain facility, we'd be up and around the mountain, and we'd always see this. Yeah, who is that kid, man? He's ripping, And we were always kind of envious. We always kind of want to check him out. And what's his deal? And he was smaller, but he ripped harder than we did, especially, in the early days. And then, we pretty quickly, made friends with him and combined the little posses that we had. And it was, yeah.
So you had a little crew of guys who were going out kind of every weekend. And,
yep.
Yeah.
Hitting it every weekend, once in a while on the weekdays. But, just our posse would roll around. And, there was this was before the days of, as terrain parks and stuff like that.
Sure.
So we went out and, hit jumps and any sort of natural jumps we could find, and lots of cliffs, which we later figured out all had really flat landings relative to, what was probably a good idea to hit, past
strong,
the age
resilient
of 16.
knees at that age.
Oh yeah. It's all, and I mean, that's one of the cool things about snowboarding, I think one of the coolest things one of the ironic things, that I always see is like, how, there's this kind of hierarchy of cool that somebody decided. And, a lot of snowboarders think that like skateboarding is super cool.
Right.
And like, just like skiers, I think a lot of freestyle skiing is like emulating snowboarding.
Today it is for sure.
For sure.
I think everyone hated us back then. The surfers, the skaters, the skiers. Everyone hated snowboarders in the early 90s. But it was just fun, so we did it anyway. We didn't care what they thought. At least I didn't.
Oh yeah, same. But it was, I think that's one of the cool. What I guess I was getting to is I like, I think that's a funny thing that snowboarding, we're always like, a lot of people are always chasing skateboarding, and then I love seeing skateboarders come on snow and try snowboarding, because by and large they love it, because it's so much lower impact. It's faster. You can go bigger with like relatively low skill level. Like you can go pretty big, and if you splat in snow, you kind of just laugh most of the time. I mean, we've all been hurt snowboarding too, because you can go fast and big, but I mean, that's one of the cool things about snowboarding is that there's a lot of freedom there. You're like in this landscape that, you point your snowboard downhill and the possibilities are endless, not to mention it's like the closest you can get to Nerf World, snow covered. I mean, I don't know. I grew up in the West, so there's, pretty decent snow. It's not groomed runs. It's not a park. It's like just
natural
powder,
terrain,
a lot
everywhere.
of powder and natural terrain. So, falling is doesn't suck most of the time.
And so you were riding with Crawford and Travis, and those guys became like famous pro riders. What went wrong for you?
Well, nothing went wrong,
I'm just kind of busting your balls. Sorry, I'm giving you a hard time.
What happened, bro? The short of it is that I would say, like in high school, I was riding at the same level as those guys, for sure. And well, you can ask them. I don't know, but
in your head, you were at the same level or better, maybe.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a claim. You're like, oh, wait, sure you were, buddy.
Yeah.
But
hey, you had one of the best magazine covers of all time, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And you're the best snowboard magazine of all time.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So I basically went to college. So I did really well in high school. Okay. And,
so the paths kind of diverged right there after high school.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I did well in high school, so I had an opportunity to get some scholarship, go to some colleges that I wouldn't have been able to, afford if I didn't have some scholarship. And I think that I really wanted to keep snowboarding a part of my life, but I think because I had other opportunity, I checked it out. So. And actually it was kind of funny because Travis had, after we graduated, he had stayed in the Flathead Valley for a bit. And then he was like, I think he went to community college for a minute, and then he was, and we're best friends. I kept up with him a lot, and he's, man, I'm gonna, I just want to quit and do snowboarding, and I was like, Brad, dude, like, that's awesome. You should. But I was like, you probably got to get out of Northwest Montana. There's just no sun there. And it's hard to take photos in all that fog.
And there's no photographers really based there.
No industry, no photographers. And so Travis ended up, and so I said, come on down here. It's,
where were you? What school?
The Colorado College in Colorado Springs, which
that's a good school.
Yeah,
right?
it's a good school, interesting school, block plan. But he, I said, well, come on down, and so I had a single room in the dorms. I somehow finagled a bunk bed, and he drove his car down with the $250 he had in his pocket. Yeah, I remember he had an auto harp that he was like, I brought this auto harp, which is a funny little instrument with, like keys and like a fretboard or something, and just in case he ended up on the street and had to play that for money. I mean, that was the thinking. So then he was like, he was living in my dorm with me. I just grabbed a bunk bed and we lived there for a month until I think we kind of got busted. And then he moved into a room with some friends that had like this dungeon, this big kind of funky room that the school had converted to accommodate more kids. And so he lived, they had a pet rabbit that I think had a bigger room than he did. But anyway, we'd
so he lived rent free though in the bottom of like basically as an interloper pretending that he was a student.
Yeah. He just we passed him off as a student and we'd, help him climb this one wall into the dining hall. And, and my friends were super supportive too. They, he's a awesome, lovable guy. And we all snowboarded. And so one of my buddies, bought him his first ski pass, I think, up at Vail. And then, everybody helped him out. And I think he was even taking a choir course at one point.
Really? He was like, I'm just going to show up at this class. I found out when they have classes, I'm going to go. Check it out.
Yeah, or had my friends sign up or something. But so, but anyway, so yeah, I had an opportunity, went to college, have a degree in chemistry, which I've since forgotten about, but paid for.
But you know all about waterproof breathability now.
Absolutely, yeah, the chemistry
on a chemical level.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Yeah, you were one of the STEM students, and you my dad told me when I was like in high school or whatever, and when I was starting to like try to become a pro rider, he's like, your brain is smarter than your knees.
Totally.
So it's like you should maybe consider going to school. Actually, he was like, you go to school, I'll never talk to you again.
Yeah.
So then he didn't talk to me for a month, and then my mom was like, "Oh, thank God you're alive." Right? So, but I ended up finishing school as well. I went for marketing, but I mean, I think that really helped. It's like, do you eat your dessert before your vegetables, or the other way around, right?
Absolutely.
And so I ate my vegetables first, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's a I guess it's important to me to, I think that obviously when kids are looking up to, they love snowboarding and they're looking up to snowboarders and they're going like, how do I do this more? How do I just do this all the time? The first answer that pops up is like, I'm going to be a pro snowboarder.
Right. It's fun,
which is cool.
Yeah.
But I do think it's, I think it's good to let kids know that there's only, a very small percentage of people who have, the athletic ability, not to mention drive, and can stay injury free. And now you have to have it's just a small percentage of people who can actually make a living doing that. And a lot of pitfalls,
Yeah, it's like a Rubik's Cube too, because it's not just being like the guy with the best tricks. It is staying injury free. And now it's like you got to have some kind of personality that sets you apart from everyone else. And there's a lot of aspects to it that isn't just like you just fall into it. It's like it's a rare bird that becomes a pro rider today and can really make a living at it even.
Right. I mean, I know, a couple guys now who are quote unquote professional, but they're still like, man, this coffee shop, this barista job's killing me, man.
Right.
It's true. I mean, so anyway, I think that is a cool thing to let people know that, there's other avenues out there, which is, kind of what I did. I've snowboarded my whole life. I've snowboarded what I consider pretty hard my whole life. And,
magazine covers.
Well, sometimes you get lucky. But,
well, you were. But the thing is, it's like you have been able to professionally pursue snowboarding now for what, 15, 20 years?
15 years. Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, that is kind of like an Granted, you have to show up at an office and you have to answer emails and be diligent and understand production of products and stuff. Okay,
it's probably no easier than being a pro snowboarder either.
but less hard on your knees. Right?
Yeah, right. I've been relatively injury free, whereas my buddies who have been pro snowboarders have definitely. I mean, you get it. Travis used to say, you put your spine on the line. You got to put your spine on the line sometime. I mean, if it's your job, there's a lot more pressure, and you do get paid to get shots, and so sometimes you're going to be pushing it a little bit harder than what you would just doing it for yourself, on your own. So, but anyway, and I think it's cool to see, people who pick up on these different aspects. I mean, you can be a videographer. Yeah, that's one that a lot of people figure out and go, oh, you know what, this is cool. Go hang with my buddies and not have to be the guy that's doing the big gap,
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Beav. I'm sitting here with Sully in a room just talking about snowboarding. If you can believe it, we're just a couple guys with a couple microphones. The idea really was to make a podcast for the people by a couple snowboarders, and that's us. But in turn, we need you to help us out. Go to patreon.com/the Snowboard Project, and just for like a couple bucks, maybe the cost of a beer, you can help us keep creating these shows. This month, we have so much good content for you. We have Torgeir, we have Nate Holland, we have Dave Schreiber, Kurt Heine. We have all these people in the industry, and these are interviews for you so that you can go listen to them and learn something about the industry that you are directly a part of. We want to keep creating them for you. So if you can help us out, 1, share our podcast. 2, potentially donate to our podcast. 3, rate our podcast. And 4, keep listening to our podcast, because the more of those things that we get, the more we can keep creating, the more cool ideas we can start tackling, and the more great stories we can keep bringing to you. So thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of that. Patreon.com/the Snowboard Project.
Did you get a job being working in chemistry right out of school, or what was your first kind of career type job out of school?
No, I never did. I kind of, so then I did, there was a short time where I kind of circled back around to snowboarding, and I guess I would put it this way. In the 4 years I was in college, I snowboarded enough to where I definitely didn't feel like I was a worse snowboarder, but I didn't snowboard enough to where I progressed through those 4 years. So at the end of that time, I was like, of course, still loving snowboarding at a high level. And I was like, man, I should give this a go, let's go do it. And so, at that point I worked at High Cascade in the summers and snowboarded, as many days as probably anybody else. And, had some level of sponsorship. But, in the meantime, and I guess for me, it was like, I did try to do that, and in a way, I did kind of fail at doing that. But I think for me, it was like, what I realized was just that pretty quickly when I got into that, scene of trying to produce photos, trying to produce video is essentially what you're doing, trying to make shots. And, my friends were out doing it. Crawford and Travis were out doing it. And I lived with Travis and, Inglesman and those guys and Corey Smith and in Salt Lake City for a minute. And, was buddies with Zacher. So when he's home, not out on some crazy trip, we'd go shoot photos, and Scott Sullivan, and, had some opportunities to do that. But, to me, it was like quite a big difference between doing that to go out to try to produce photos and video and doing it for myself. I think this probably has a lot to do with my personality as much as anything. But for me, that was a big difference. The reason that I fell in love with snowboarding was because it was complete freedom for me. I could go out up on the mountain in this somewhat controlled environment where, my parents were like, yeah, cool, go do that. Like, we'll see it at the end of night skiing or whatever. Drop me off 8 a.m., pick me up, 10 p.m. You can do whatever you want. Maybe you're running from ski patrol a little bit. It's a soft environment, and you have a chance to learn, to blast yourself into the air, to rip powder, to kind of express your own style, figure out tricks, progress, use your brain, use your body. And to me, essentially, like complete freedom. When I strap into my snowboard, point it downhill, click, switch gets flipped, and you're just doing one thing, and it's pretty enjoyable. And it's pretty much all for me at that point. I'm just doing what I want to do and the way I want to do it. And sure, I appreciate the element where you're pushing your friends, they're pushing you. There's a bit of like, a friendly judgment, like, oh, your style was a little weird on that one, or you're like, that was sick, you got this, like, do it. That there's that element, but on a real small scale, pretty much, snowboarding with the crew, and doing it things for me the way I wanted, to get a feeling that I wanted. And then, once you start to, for me anyway, once I started to, try to produce photos and stuff, it didn't just change it a little bit from my perspective. It changed it a lot for me, and I was like, all of a sudden, I mean, on the most beautiful Bluebird powder day, you're setting up to get a shot instead of ripping 7 laps. You get 1 lap, you know what I mean? And you set up and you get a shot, and it's always been an interesting, thing to watch people, because I have a lot of friends who are pro snowboarders, and watch them go through their careers. And some people, like Dirksen, you look at Dirksen, like, he's stoked all the time, and he's like, we must have some sort of personality difference, because he's just, I mean, I know it's worked for him sometimes for sure, but like, he's just a guy that I look at and I'm like, he's just appreciating every aspect of doing this for his job, and he's really good at it, and I think on some level, obviously for him, it wasn't a very big sacrifice. Like, he had a lot more benefit out of it than sacrifice. And, and then even other pro snowboarders that you watch that get kind of burnt out on it, and they have to shut it down. They're like, I'm out. I can't handle this.
Right. I'm going to go sell cars.
Totally. I'm just done with this, and even guys who, it's not, and the perception is, oh, that guy quit snowboarding. I mean, Whitlake is a perfect example. Well, he didn't quit snowboarding. He just quit pro snowboarding. He wasn't out chasing, getting shots and dealing with all that stuff. And the guy still, well, now he has been in Central America for 2 years, but it's just an interesting thing to see how people handle it and what the kind of balance that they perceive or can get out of it. But for me, I went out there, and when I love the progression element. I love being pushed to progress and pushing myself and pushing my friends. But I just, I didn't feel like I wanted to be on stage, I guess, and didn't feel like I wanted to have this other pressure or element coming in to dictate what I was doing. I just wanted to snowboard for myself.
And it's like, you got to perform right in that moment. It's like, dance, monkey, dance.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, for sure.
Oh, sure. I'm not ready to. Whereas
Absolutely.
You're doing it for yourself, and you're progressing at your own speed. You can land the trick or try the trick, and you don't have to do it right then.
Yeah. I don't need to. Yeah. And I guess on one level too, it's like maybe I guess one thing I've realized is like, I'm like, I do like to impress my friends, like people who I know and respect. Like, I like them to be like, good job, dude, that was sick, but also, and then just another, element of my personality. I'm like, I don't necessarily need to impress this huge audience, you know what I mean? Like of people that I don't know. Like, it's not that big of a goal or drive for me. You know what I mean? Not that is for everybody that does that, but I guess, so anyway, I tried to be a pro snowboarder for a while, but, just realized that really, when you're doing it, kind of started to burn me out, trying to do that stuff and doing it and having some success with it. But then I kind of realized that, so actually, for me, it was like this point where I was kind of getting burnt out with that a little bit, and being up at Mount Hood, coaching kids in the summer. And, interestingly, being involved in snowboarding from the 90s through for 10 or 12 or whatever, years until the early 2000s, and seeing snowboarding kind of go from this thing that was an activity mostly to a thing that became kind of like a market and an industry, if you will, watching that transition over the first 10 or dozen years that I was involved in snowboarding, I started to see the kind of what I perceived as some of the negative results of it going from this activity, which was kind of pure. There was no kind of ulterior motive, for people to do it just because it was fun, Right. And then fast forward to where companies were trying to make money off of it, and it blew up during the, .com economy's going wild. People have extra money to spend. This new activity, they're marketing it to teenagers, And what's the easiest thing to tell, like a 14-year-old kid that you want to sell something to? It's like, yeah, you do this, it's going to make you a rapper, You're going to be, or you do this, you're going to be punk. Like, it's like, those images of...
You're going to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, just like, it's cool. There started to be video games, and it was like, when I started snowboarding, I thought it was cool, but it wasn't like...
it was more fun than
I started
cool.
because it was cool. You know what I mean? I just thought it looked fun. So... so anyway, yeah, fast forward to the, kind of when I was early 2000s, and I'd kind of given it a half of a run to try to, get sponsors and make it to that next level. And just kind of, found out that, I guess just for me, it started to really change it. Mm-hmm. And so I was feeling a little burnt out, but I just knew that, snowboarding has always been this huge positive force in my
mm-hmm.
life, and somewhere where I have found peace and freedom. And so I was like, man, do I need to take a break from this? Do I need to? And so anyway, I guess one of the aspects that I was seeing, like up at Mount Hood, all these kids coming up for summer camps, and I watched them kind of having a different experience than what I had when I was their age. Because when I was their age, well, so when I was their age, if you saw somebody snowboarding when I started in, early 90s, like in Montana anyway, I mean, granted, we're not, Bear Mountain or anything like that. But if I saw somebody snowboarding, I'd go up to them and be like, hey, what's going on? You snowboard? Cool. What kind of equipment do you, what kind of boots do you have? And it's like,
right.
Oh, you put ski boot liners in your Sorels? That's sick. Like, I've just been duct taping the hell out of my Sorels,
right.
And it was like, oh, let's take a run. And you got,
yeah,
at least
friends.
you took a run, and you probably had a friend, or you might have had a lifelong friend.
Yeah.
So, watch these kids the same age showing up to snowboard camp in the early 2000s, and they're looking each other up and down, and looking you up and down as their coach even, right? What's your best trick? I would hear that from so many 14-year-old
really?
kids, And then, I would coach these kids on hill, and what do they want to do? Well, they're so focused on like progression or learning a certain trick. I mean, I had kids who literally couldn't do even a halfway decent turn on both their edges, but they could chuck a backside rodeo because they learned it on a trampoline, and they could just go straight. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Go straight towards the jump, chuck a backside rodeo, land it sketchy, and then like stop, Right. And they wanted to learn something else, and they couldn't do a turn, And then it wasn't like they were encouraging each other, is I guess the big thing. It wasn't like there was any sort of like, hey, you snowboard? What are you trying to learn? It was like, oh, who's this bro? And so I perceived that to be partially from the marketing that was
right. So like, what was the thing that like made cool more important than fun? Like, when did that happen in the sport of snowboarding? Because that sounds like that's what you're describing.
Yeah,
like it was more important to be like perceived as cool than to just have a great time and just
absolutely
make fun of yourself, crash, whatever it was, but just have fun.
I mean, to me, the progression or regression, whatever you want to call that, was in that 10 years where it went from being an activity to an industry. And I think when people are actively trying to grow the sport so that they can, create new customers, sell more snowboards. And to do that, you have to market, and, I'm not like, it would be funny for me in my position now to be anti-marketing or anti-snowboard industry. I'm not. I just thought basically at that point, the images and the style of snowboarding that was being pushed out there into the world was not really representative of the best thing about snowboarding to me,
Right.
So, it even goes to a lot of the, I think that if you watch the progression of snowboard videos, and you watch the early, 90s videos were pretty loose, Everything about them was pretty loose. People were learning new tricks.
Yeah.
People didn't know how to film yet. People didn't know how to edit yet. Everybody was figuring every aspect of it out.
Right.
Fast forward to, snowboard movies had come a long way. You look at stuff like, Mac Dog, what he was doing. I mean, they were really nailing it down, to a science of making it look really, really crisp, really pretty. And really polished, and I grew up on those snowboard movies, and I love them, but one kind of aspect of that was that when you polish something to that degree, you're kind of, to me, I thought they were kind of removing a lot of the like nitty gritty and real life elements, and they were removing a lot of the falling, and maybe the falling was like put into one section, and I mean, some of those classic parts from JP and those guys, I mean, it literally, and Devin, it looks like they filmed it in a day,
Yeah.
And I don't think that was totally by accident. And granted, those guys probably could film a part in a day, but the fact that it looks maybe like they filmed a part in a day, without crashing is to somebody who's not involved in the filming of it or the production, it might be a little bit misleading. It might be setting the bar a little bit high to where I saw kids pissed off that they were crashing. It's like, I can't learn. I'm like, man, like crashing is a big part of this. Like, if you want to learn something, you're gonna have to eat shit. You know what I mean? Like,
learn to crash.
That's learn to fall well. That's one thing I can claim to have done really well, because I mean, knock on wood, I've never had a serious injury, so I must be really good at falling.
You got one trick down, the most important one, right. Crashing.
I can't do any tricks, but I can fall
every time, like clockwork.
So anyway, I guess seeing it from that angle and kind of really like trying to figure out where it fit in for me, and I knew I wanted to still do it. I wanted to love it again, and I also kind of wanted these kids that I saw being maybe a little too serious, maybe thinking the camera was already on them, wanting to get sponsored, and kind of not really, according to my experience, I didn't feel like they were getting the full picture of what was awesome about snowboarding, which is snowboarding with your friends, supporting your friends, challenging them a little bit, but supporting them and being like, you got this, let's go learn something. How do you
camaraderie,
right. Yeah. Laughing at yourself, falling. And I didn't see that coming through in the marketing of snowboarding at that time. And I saw and this is just obviously my perception. My takedown of that is like, the marketing, was kind of focused on that it was cool, trying to make it look flawless, and trying to make it look kind of gangster or kind of punk, but not really showing that kind of real experience of snowboarding that I knew it as, which is having fun with your friends. Progression's a part of it. It's not like either or. It's like you can have fun and progress. And so, long story short, that's kind of where my part of Air Blaster, what I try to infuse into Air Blaster. And I think there was a lot of, I started with Paul Miller and Travis Parker.
And there was no one else making leg bags at the time. So you were like, this is wide open. We'll be the leader.
That was it. I mean, that was. So
how did that come about? Like leg bags, right?
So, and then coming up, you snowboarded when we used to have to wear leashes, right?
Yeah, totally.
Which was like everywhere, even in the mid 90s. I think by the early 2000s, it was kind of phased out, They didn't enforce it, but like even up till the mid 90s, like if you were going to get on the lift at like a majority of resorts in the USA, you had to show the lift to your leash, or they had to be able to see it. And which was a completely funny thing because
they didn't do anything.
They're not releasable bindings. I mean, I've never actually seen a pair of releasable snowboard bindings. I've heard that they exist, but
the thing is, if you're gonna come out, it's like the binding's coming with you. You're gonna yank the binding. The binding and the boot will still be attached to the leash.
The screws, the inserts, everything's coming with you. Yeah, right. Oh, you mean your leash is attached to your
the binding,
and,
which is So the boot, the binding, and the leash come off together.
The only way your foot's coming out of there is if your binding rips off, and then your leash is attached to your binding, not your board. So leash is right. It was this complete like kind of power system that they enforced it because they could, but it didn't do anything, right? And so and so parallel to that is that was like in the 90s. I remember the big Bakota leashes with the coil when people would actually hike with it on, and you needed a coil.
Oh, right? If you forgot your leash, you'd have to go buy a leash for like $25.
Go get one for $25. No joke. And so. Another kind of element of that era was like, I mean, you think about like Damian Sanders and just being like tongue out, hair flying, neon colors, and that, that was part of, I guess, the time when I started snowboarding, so I guess, we, and then in, 2002, it's like everybody had all black, whether you had the gangster black, which is baggy. You know, people sagged everything, studded belt. People were even sagging their goggles for a time. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
But
fashion ruled the day, let's say, to some degree.
And it was like black, and it was hard looks, you know, and like serious business. So, you know, when we came out with the leg bag, or the leash, actually, is the first thing. It was called the air leash, is what we called it before the leg bag. It was just about a 4.5-inch tall thing that was brightly colored, strapped around your leg with Velcro, had an air pill on it. And, you know, if you wore that at that time when nobody was saying snowboarding is fun, nobody was publicly saying in their marketing messages, snowboarding is fun, you should do it, it's fun, it's awesome, you know, go hang with your friends and high five. Like, that wasn't the message. So, you know, we launched that air leash, and, you know,
did it actually have a leash part that
there was a leash, there was a urethane coil. And so it was kind of part of it was kind of a throwback to, you know, taking that old 90s style and that kind of little power system of the leash that the resorts used to use, and flipping that on its ear. And then another part of it was just, we went, you know what, if you're going to wear one of these, you are like kind of making a public statement, like, I don't take myself too seriously, as you can see by this ridiculous thing on my leg. And so, and that was kind of like, that was just kind of a self-evident truth. Like, if you were going to wear that thing, like, people were going to look at you funny, be like, "What are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
what is that thing on your leg?" And you're like, you know, it kind of loosened it up a little bit.
Right.
You know
I'm
what
having
I mean?
fun.
Like,
what are
hey,
you doing?
I'm up here having fun. What are you guys doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as people started to adopt that, then, you know, and really, if you know, and sometimes we all get too serious about stuff. But if you look down and you see that, you're like, well, oh man, I'm just here to have fun. Let's do this. Let's get ridiculous. Let's be silly. And a kind of really cool unintended, I think, or unforeseen consequence of that is, once that, you know, our friends started, they were like, oh yeah, this is great. This is, you know, air blaster. That's awesome. And, you know, like, everybody respected Travis so much. And that was a big part of it. And, you know, myself and Paul, too, just working up at High Cascade, I mean, we had a huge network of, you know, friends that are pro and snowboarders. And, you know, people were into it. They were like, oh, cool, we back you guys. This is fun. This is funny. We get it. We're on this team. We want to be on this team, you know?
Right.
People were ready for a little.
Just something new.
To loosen up a little bit. You know what I mean? And so then, you know, a couple years into it, when, you know, we actually sold a couple leashes and a couple leg bags to other people who kind of understood what we were doing, and were like, yeah, I'm down with that. I'm down to not take myself too seriously. I'm going to wear this big stupid thing. And, you know, then what started happening, and this is kind of really kind of the beauty of it, which again, it wasn't like it was planned out to this degree, but then at resorts, you know, you see somebody with a leg bag or a leash, and you'd walk up to them and be like, hey, where'd you get that? Cool. That's sweet. Want to take a run? You know, let's go. And so it's like back to that original, vibe, which is kind of almost like a really kind of happy circumstance. Or
yeah. And that was the first product. Like, it was just leg bags for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. We had the air leash was the first thing, and then we made the SARS, which was an acronym. It was right around the time that. Yeah, it was a lightweight summer jacket with a face mask in it for sunscreen. And this was right around the time that there was a SARS scare. There's always some epidemic, you know, bird flu, swine flu, but at that time it was SARS, right?
Right.
Everybody was scared about SARS, you know, traveling in the airport or what. And so, and we just like to make fun of that stuff because it's really drumming up a lot. Easiest way to control people is to make them scared, right? So that's my take on it. So there's always some enemy, you know, like out there, and the enemy at this point was, one of the enemies was SARS, and so we created the SARS. It was a sunlight accident resistance shirt, SARS, lightweight jacket, basically made out of stuff.
So it was
that's
just random
trunks.
that had the same acronym. As,
another happy
airborne
circumstance.
disease.
So, you know, we thought that, anyway, we like to have fun, you know, again, along the veins of.
And it worked at Hood. It was like for Hood in the summer, you guys were all up there, and it was absolutely. Like sunscreen wasn't too heavy. So
right, you know the deal. On the glacier, the snowfield in the summer, you It seems it's hot enough you'd want to be in short sleeves, but if you fall in that snow, it has salt in it, it has bacteria in it, you get a nasty raspberry. Yeah. Essentially, you've got to cover your arms and elbows, and you have to cover your face. And even I've seen kids get sunburnt up inside their nose.
Yeah.
I've seen, don't hike with your tongue out. I've seen, kids with, these fat, cow tongues.
Anything that can be burned will be burned.
That's right.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, so we made a little basically lightweight, windbreaker that wasn't waterproof. It dried quickly and protected you from the sun and the snow.
Now, this was made in China. You designed it, figured out how to design it and get it made overseas, or was it made
No,
here?
it was made in Portland. Yeah,
Okay,
so we
cool.
started out, plenty of snowboard experience and kind of definitely, in the ecosystem of snowboarding pretty much full time. But as far as the ecosystem and level of experience with business, we had almost zero. So
it takes some baby steps.
Just figure it out. That's been my whole experience with it, is just, okay, let's move one step forward, and where do we get these made? And we only needed a couple hundred of them or 100 of them or something.
Right.
So yeah, we were sourcing fabric in Portland and sewing it in Portland, about a mile and a half from where we're talking right now, getting the sewing done. I had to hire a pattern maker to do the patterning part. I had to then get the fabric somewhere else, get the branding somewhere else, get the other branding somewhere else, get the sewing done somewhere down the street, and get the snaps somewhere else. So I was just basically doing the entire production and figuring it out as we went. And so yeah, the first couple runs of and we made outerwear in Portland. We moved on to outerwear, started making that in Portland, and
you didn't really promote
like
though
bags.
That it was like made in America. That wasn't one of the big marketing things.
I mean, it was on the inside label, Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't. We weren't flying the Made in the USA flag. One of the reasons for that is, unfortunately, the garment industry in the USA hasn't been protected. I mean, a long time ago, because of economics and politics. It was made really. There was a lot of incentives put in place for people to make things overseas, and there wasn't a lot of protectionism for the U.S. garment market. So what I found out pretty quickly in, making stuff in the USA is that, there were some things that you could get away with making in the USA. This guy that Mike Hung, who's a funny character, who he's a Chinese Vietnamese guy. He had the mole hair, 6 inches long, had the little long fingernail.
Really?
And but he was just a hilarious dude.
Right.
Total character.
Right.
Awesome guy. I'd always, bring him a case of Budweiser, and we'd crack into that and talk about the production and stuff. But a lot of what he did was, he made pillows for Pendleton. So pillows, four-sided sew, little binding, really simple stuff you could make in the USA, right? Because there was hardly any labor involved. The other thing you can make in the USA, super high-end fashion stuff where you're paying, a couple $100 for a pair of jeans because it's super low run, made in the USA. Maybe it's got some custom Dremel work, some fraying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or you're paying for the name. Snowboard outerwear is quite a bit different story. It's super labor intensive. I mean, you're sewing a liner, you're sewing a jacket, so you basically are already making two jackets and sewing them together. Not to mention, when you seam tape a jacket, that's almost like sewing it a third time. So so we basically, number one, the machinery and expertise to seam tape things at that time didn't even exist here. I couldn't find it in Portland. I couldn't find anybody to seam tape anything in Portland. And that was kind of like, well, we got to get things seam taped. It's kind of important to start to come up and
just the functional of the garments.
Got to provide some, comparable feature package to the competition,
Yeah.
But anyway, it's cool. Yeah. So we started here. We made a jump to Argentina. We were sewing in Argentina for a while, which Argentina is a beautiful, beautiful place that I love
Perfect
to travel.
excuse to go oversee production.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Tons of beef, tons of wine, beautiful women, beautiful mountains. They have a domestic marketing economy by and large. They don't export a ton of stuff. They don't import a ton of stuff. Whereas the U.S. has an import economy, they have kind of a domestic economy, and then China has an export economy. So stepping from, a place which doesn't have a lot of manufacturing, for garments anyway, the USA, we went to Argentina, who had, kind of this medium scale garment production. I found a guy, was introduced to a guy, Jorge Luis Gonzalez, who was sewing a lot of outerwear, technical outerwear, long underwear, right at the foot of the Andes, for Argentine ski patrollers and resorts and Argentine consumers and, people who had guiding businesses. So it was kind of this mid-level, it wasn't super huge productions. It wasn't super tiny productions. They had seam taping and everything. So yeah, we went to Argentina and then now most of the stuff is made actually switching more and more to Vietnam.
Hey, what's up, Snowboard Project listeners? I know you're probably sitting on the couch or in the car or somewhere with another friend of yours who is also a snowboarder who is sitting there scrolling on his phone, on his Facebook, on his Instagram, and he has no idea what a podcast is. So here's what I want you to do. Here's the challenge. You need to walk over to your friend, grab his phone, scroll down and find that little purple podcast button that he has no idea has never opened, and I want you to press it. And you are going to do him the biggest favor of his life right now. You are going to subscribe him or her to the Snowboard Project. And then you're going to rate us 5 stars and you're going to throw him his phone back and say, "You're welcome." They get to listen every week to 3 different stories, a couple from, other snowboarders just like them, or maybe an industry person that will give them the great information they want to know about design, or maybe about, marketing themselves, or maybe about just snowboarding and being a competitive snowboarder. And you're also going to get news that's not just past the, next 180 or the 1620. You are going to hear things about the adventure, the friendship, and you are going to hear about the experiences of doing what you love, which is snowboarding. Hit the purple button, subscribe him, rate us, hand the phone back and say, "You're welcome."
So let's take a step back here.
Yeah.
Where did the air pill come from? Where did the pterodactyl come from? Those are kind of the 2 logos that have been standing the test of time for Airbus. I know the air pill is like from day one. Is the pterodactyl still a part of the marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the air pill, first off, we got to give credit to Paul Miller, who's one of the co-founders of Air Blaster, and is a partner of Air Blaster, one of my original partners, along with Travis. And Travis is off snowboarding in the world. Yeah. So
he was like the marketing kind of.
It was the marketing guy,
right? And
he realized that his snowboard career wasn't going to last forever, and he had a bit of money that he was investing in different things, and he put some towards Air Blaster to give us a start. And obviously he was a huge marketing force at that time, and probably still is a pretty big marketing force when he gets on the board. But Paul Miller, so Paul and I were basically running Air Blaster in the beginning. We were making catalogs out of the basement and made this logo the same way, but Paul's a graphic designer and he's a good one. And he, we were basically sketching, we knew we had an A for Airpill, and I ended up sketching a bunch of rocket ships in kind of our discussion, our back and forth on what should we have as a logo, and sketching a bunch of little rocket pods that were blasting, the little flame blast out of the bottom, and simplifying that. And then I think Paul and I had discussed that. I had hand drawn some. I brought them to Paul, a bunch of very kind of almost like very simmered down rocket ships, and then Paul took it and, cleaned it up and simmered it down even further into the current form of the air pill. So even though we call it an air pill, if you turn it vertically with the circle up and you look at that top portion, the top portion is a little space pod and the circle is a window.
Gotcha.
And then this, the kind of concentric, almost half circles coming out of the lower third of the logo when you have the circle up, that's your rocket blast.
Gotcha. So, okay, I didn't know that, and I've looked at that logo for 15 years.
Yeah, some people. It's funny, everything you hear. I think my favorite is I remember the trampoline guy one time. Trampoline guy's always a funny guy. He goes, "Is it like a one-eyed cyclops with his tongue out?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's like one of the things that it is. You know?
Right.
But,
you just say yes no matter what anyone says. You're
yeah,
like, yep,
totally.
that's it. Yeah,
That's
you got
pretty
it.
much what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's our little vehicle to blast upwards and,
Right. Blasting
blast air.
in the air. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Okay. Pterodactyl.
the pterodactyl is just, I don't know. I think a lot of, men who are boys or who still are boys can relate to, there's a couple things that we all love, ninjas and dinosaurs and flying, so flying dinosaurs hits like 2 out of 3. So I think, I have a little tattoo of a pterodactyl here and I hand drew the pterodactyl logo myself and I just draw pterodactyls, it's almost like a little signature of mine now. I love dinosaurs and I mean, dinosaurs that fly are like the coolest thing. So,
That's pretty funny because it's like then you started making the ninja suit and now you can actually hit all 3.
Boom, boom, boom. That's right.
So how did the ninja suit come about? Because that's something that's actually kind of gone across like beyond snowboarding to to maybe the outdoors industry and like, I don't know, there's probably hunters wearing ninja suits or something.
We hope so. Yeah. We're trying to, Air Blaster obviously pretty rooted in snowboarding. This is we've got our feet firmly planted on the board. But we made the ninja suit and now we're definitely on a mission to share the ninja suit with anybody who uses base layer. If you use base layer, we want you to have the best base layer on the planet.
How did that come about? Like, how did you design the ninja suit?
Yeah, actually, it started out kind of, we were joking around with one-piece sweatsuit and stuff like that. But then when I was down in Argentina, developing our line essentially down in Mendoza, Argentina, which is right at the foot of the Andes there, and snowboarding there. So it's our summer, their winter. That was a cool thing. We could go down there in the northern hemisphere summer, and be developing stuff in June, July, August, and be snowboarding and actually testing it. And the guy that I was working with, Jorge, was a really good pattern maker and kind of just like he was a product designer really at heart, and that was like the strength of his business. And so, I brought this idea down there for a one-piece suit, and I started thinking of it, functionally, like this could really be something that solves a problem for me because you get snow down your waist, and that's just one of the worst things about snowboarding is when you ragdoll and somehow your powder skirt pulls up or whatever, you get snow down your pants or snow up your jacket, and all of a sudden you go from being cozy and happy to being like, wet and cold, even if it's just for a minute. You're just like,
and some road rash on your lower back.
Totally, it's a bit of a buzzkill there. So anyway, so I think Jorge is the one that really helped me execute that vision, and one part of it is the hood. I wanted to have a hood, and he really helped me engineer that hood to be essentially like what it is today, which is almost like a wetsuit hood. It's paneled. It's got a lot of shape to it, so it really hugs your neck in the right way, encircles your face in the right way, so that I think that the ninja suit is a one-piece base layer, if you haven't figured that out by now. But the two, I think of it like this. You live in a cold place, right? We've grown up living in cold places. You go to Hawaii or California or something nice and warm, and then you come back, you get off the plane in your cold place, and where do you feel the wind? Bam, right in your neck and right at your waistline. If you don't have your shirt tucked in or a long enough jacket, and instantly you kind of pull your collar in and you like tuck in your shirt or try to like close that gap. So the ninja suit solves those two problems. It's got to fit nice and tight by the neck so that you don't get any snow or drafts down your neck, and it solves that that little tender waistline area that's like kind of wussy for all of us. It's like this tender little area that when it's cold. So, Jorge really helped to kind of pattern it and execute my vision of like a functional one, moving it from kind of a funny thing to a functional, one-piece base layer that would actually like make me happier in the mountains and my friends happier in the mountains, and so that's kind of the genesis of it, and it worked really well, and we've continued to develop it so that it works even better. And now it's one of those things I can happily say for a lot of people is like just completely a necessity. If you forget your ninja suit, you're like turning around, or if you're too far gone, you're just like, oh, I'm gonna be kind of cold today, or kind of, just a little bit off. So
yeah, it's like forgetting your pillow on a road trip or something like that. It's like one of those things you're just like, that goes in the bag every time. Yeah. And now you have like 3 different weights, like lightweight, medium weight, heavyweight, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do classic ninja suit, which is synthetic blend with everything's 4-way stretch, because a one piece has to be to fit well. And that's kind of our classic model. We do that for men, women, and kids now. Mm-hmm. Everything full function with the circumferential waist zip. That's how you know it's a ninja suit. You look at it and you look for that zipper around the waist.
That's how you go to the bathroom.
That's how you go pooey out of it. We have the classic ninja suit, and then we have a hoodless version, which is essentially same material, but some people just don't want another hood. Some people get a little claustrophobic, or they like to let their beautiful hair blow in the breeze, which I don't have any hair, so I usually go hooded, but we have a hoodless for men and women, hoodless ninja suit, and then we have a merino ninja suit, which is it's awesome merino blend that we've developed that is merino rich, but it has some tensile for strength and to improve the dry time on it, and improve the tensile strength of it, and then of course spandex to give you that 4-way stretch. So pretty much same design in an upgraded fabrication for the merino. I mean, as you know, merino is the one that you can take on a 2-week trip in the mountains and sweat as much as you want, and it just won't stink. It smells a little sheepy all the time, but it's great compared to 2 weeks worth of sweating in a synthetic base layer. It gets pretty
and you
dank.
have like a whole other line of like goggles and outerwear, and what else do you guys make? I mean,
so moving beyond the leg bag and the SARS jacket and the air leash, we started to get into outerwear, so outerwear is actually the biggest part of our business now. Mm-hmm. And I think in outerwear we've really hung our hat on fits and bringing back a little bit of expressive style. It's kind of funny that pretty much anybody in the outdoor industry, probably even fashion world, any men's brand, probably like black is going to be your number one selling colorway for pretty much any piece,
right?
Especially you look at a mountain, let's just say a mountain jacket, well, black's never been our number one selling piece for almost any product we've ever made. A couple things we do, but
you've had that attitude. It's almost like an air blaster attitude where you're not taking yourself too seriously ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, especially in the beginning, and now we've evolved to the point where we make technical gear that really performs because we get out in the mountains and use it and design it to use.
30K.
Yeah, 30K, wow. 20K breathable. Good articulate, just good stuff. And so now we sell more black jackets. But anyway, we kind of hung our hat in the beginning on fit and having a style, I think a little bit more simple style in the beginning, not a ton of bells and whistles and doodads, but being a little bit expressive and offering some options in terms of color. And so now outerwear is our biggest category, has been for quite a while. It's, the Freedom Suit is actually our best selling outerwear piece.
One piece.
The one piece, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the outerwear version of the Ninja Suit.
Yeah.
And, that's
pretty
another,
cool.
Yeah, people they're a little skeptical of it, but it's like Ninja Suit and Freedom Suit both. Like once you try them, like people are like, oh yeah, I'm in. This is, I wish I had this 20 years ago.
Yeah, I have a one-piece snowmobile suit. I love it.
Oh yeah,
it's because it's like you're never getting snow down your back ever.
Yeah, you take a good tomahawk and you pop up, and as long as you didn't smash your body, you're just laughing because the snow didn't really get you.
Yep, that's like my my 1080 version of the Crash that I've been working on for 30
right.
years. It's
horizontal,
tomahawk.
vertical tomahawk.
Yeah.
1080.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like the business is like it's a real thing now. Like you have to come into your office every day. What's like a typical day like for you here at Air Blaster?
Yeah. It's luckily we've been able to, through trial and error. I always say like, it's like everything we've done in terms of the business of Air Blaster has all been learning. Kind of the most painful way, but a real way that really teaches you well, which is, I guess it's like we were talking about snowboarding, and like falling is part of it. Like face planting is part of it, right? So, but that builds you to be really strong, and you face plant once, you don't want to do it again, so you adjust. And so we've grown really organically, and it's something that supports my family and I, and and some great employees and other members of the team that, you know, have families and houses. And that's a really, you know, that's a cool place to get to where it's, I mean, it's still, I feel like, I mean, you know this, you know, running your own business. I think a lot of people think it's really glorious, and you see these moments of glory, but at the end of the day, your heart's in it. And so you're just automatically, you're trying harder than people who aren't running their own business. I mean, I just think that's a self-evident truth.
And then you layer on top of that something that you actually enjoy doing for recreation. And then it's like, okay, now I really have to do it.
Sort it out. Right. I something that you love, you know, and I think from the beginning, you know, if I was starting a business today, I probably wouldn't go, you know, like snowboard outerwear, that sounds like a good solid business to get into, you know, plenty of room for growth there. No, it's like you know, it's because I'm passionate that I do this. And everybody here that works for Air Blaster is still, that's a big element, you know, but we do cut paychecks and you know, keep people around now for a while generally. So, I'd, you know, pretty much most of it is coming in the office, you know, 9 to 5, really.
Right. Like emails, phone calls.
Yeah.
Is it like, I mean, how much of your time is spent like developing marketing campaigns versus designing clothes versus traveling to trade shows and sales stuff and then versus just sitting there hammering out emails?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, it's totally seasonal, right? That's one interesting aspect to snow business is we have one sales season, and outerwear takes a long time to develop. Some of the fabrics take like 90 days to produce, you know, between, you know, weave up, dye up, lamination, finishing, whatever, you know. So we really have a long development cycle. So one of the kind of nice things, and for me personally, and I think for everybody who works here personally, is that, you know, your kind of monthly duties are always changing. You know, people think we're not only just busy in the winter, like we're busy all summer, and it keeps your view kind of fresh. And being seasonal is also one of the biggest challenges to running our business, because definitely in the winter, like we could double our staff ideally or triple our staff, but then in the summer we could cut back to our core staff that we have now. So you got to juggle that stuff. But so for me, you know, I guess my job now is you know, more and more is to kind of take a step back and make sure that the business is organizing in the right way to grow to the next level. So a lot of that is making sure that, you know, we've got our priorities dialed, and it's pretty organic. I mean, everybody's involved in that process of, you know, this spring we did a huge SWOT analysis, and you know, everybody from the business is involved in that, you know, and looking at like, well, how do we do? What do we do wrong? Where are our opportunities? What are our threats? You know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So, and then from there we build an action plan based on opportunities. And so that's kind of my job, is to really drive that process. You
Ignore all the threats.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
don't exist.
Threats, okay, check. We listed those out, and see you later.
Denial.
Right. Just ignore them and they'll go away. So I mean, my big job now, which is always a struggle, as you also know, to kind of, you know, carve out time for that 10,000 foot view without getting sucked into, you know, really getting your hands in there, getting dirty, and just doing something and moving it forward, which is always how any, you know, or all of the entrepreneurs that I know that aren't like independently wealthy or didn't get a grant somehow, like pretty much 99% of the time, it's like you get in there and do it. You figure it out, and you do it yourself because you're not going to wait for anybody else to do it or whatever. So now, you know, for me, it's been a process of development, trying to pull back. I still do execute plenty of stuff and involved in lots of tasks and stuff. But
what's the hardest part about running this whole company? Because you have paychecks to cut, you have to collect money. I mean, there's a lot of things that are challenging that might not come naturally to you if you're just a unfrozen caveman snowboarder. Chemist.
That's a really good question. I mean, the whole thing is really hard, is my first answer. You know, it's just hard to run a business especially in snowboarding now. You know, I think, you know, people don't realize that, you know, snowboarding in terms of participation is plateaued. And we're being affected by global climate change, and there's some awesome, big, huge storms out there that are dumping on people. But on the other side, there's a lot of dry spells, and it's harder for people to plan ski vacations or snowboard vacations when they can't really rely on even a decent base of snow.
Right.
So
it's way more unpredictable now when the weather will be good and where it will be good and when.
Absolutely. And, just through the natural cycles of any sort of activity or industry, like, snowboarding went through a huge boom, and, we've seen a lot of consolidation of at retail, a lot of specialty shops going out of business. And, these are our first and most important customers, so that's, I would say at this point, the whole thing's hard. There's a lot of challenges. I've learned more here than and had more challenges than anything else I've ever done in my life, including as far as challenges go. You got kids, that's a whole new, whole new rearrangement of your priorities and stuff. And it's hard.
No instruction manual for that one.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think Air Blaster's been hard on that level even for longer. It's kind of my first baby, but, and then you got the external factors that are, overall economy. At the end of the day, snowboarding equipment is luxury goods. Nobody needs that to survive. You and I might argue about that we need snowboarding goods to
need it more than
thrive,
most people,
or to be healthy.
Right.
But we don't need that. Nobody needs that to be alive.
Right.
That's just a fact. So it's luxury goods, and then you got economic factors and just broad scale economic things. It's surprising how much we're affected by currency fluctuations because we distribute internationally. So sometimes you're doing all the right things, and then you go, whoa, Europe's going to have a really hard time for the next couple of years because the euro just took a shit dive,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that affects us. And for me, I guess the hardest transition for me to make, and I appreciate it because I think I'm getting it figured out more and more, little by little. And I've seen it because I've always worked for independent businesses, and I've seen all the challenges, and it's what we just talked about. It's moving from that stage of being gung-ho. You get in there, you smash it yourself, you take it out, take out the next barrier, you move it forward, and going from kind of that mindset into the mindset of, okay, now I've got to rely on other people and teach them and hand off tasks to them and give them the direction to go out and smash through it themselves and get her done. And, finding people that are really good at that is hard. When we first hired employees, we treated them like owners, which they're not. We're expecting them to just bust their ass no matter what, as hard as we are every day. We're working our butts off, blood, sweat, and tears. And then you get somebody on there fired up. They got your back. They're like, I believe in this. And then, after 6 months, as an owner, you're at the end of the day, all the blood, sweat, and tears you pour into it, at least you got a chance to get some of that back, if you ever sell part of it someday, or it gets big enough that it pays you back, but I think realize, all those things of transitioning from a small business to a medium business, doing everything yourself, then you got to learn to delegate, give clear direction, set standards. People actually love assignments and standards because it lets them know what's expected of them.
Gives
so
them
they
a
can,
bar to
they
jump
can
over.
succeed. Yeah, exactly. They know what are the terms for success. So all of those kind of more, going from, I guess you could, I don't want to use that analogy, but just going, I guess I'll use it, even though I don't like any sort of battle or war analogies necessarily, going from being a soldier to moving back to the strategy table and being more of a general, for lack of a better analogy coming into my mind right now. I'll use that. And just realizing that it's a different skill set. It's a different skill set. And
so what kind of skills have you taken from snowboarding, the riding, into your business, and then beyond the business into your family life and everything else?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess the question first for me would be what have I learned snowboarding, and I guess maybe there's, here's one analogy that I use all the time that I think really does apply to life, and I think that anybody can kind of appreciate. You're shredding down a nice treed slope, right? Tons of powder in there. You hiked out in the trees. You're ripping it. you pop into a section, and all of a sudden the trees start to kind of close out, and what you got to do, this, to avoid hitting a tree, you don't look at the tree. You look at the space in between the trees where you want to go. Because the moment you look at a tree, you hit the tree.
Yeah.
And there's probably been a couple times when you and I have hit a tree that we didn't look at, but 9 times out of 10, if you hit a tree, it's because you focused on it and you thought you might hit it, and you hit it.
Right.
So I guess just that, wherever you direct your focus, that's going to determine like your path for sure.
Right.
It's
like
if
the
you
law
want
of attraction, right? You focus
Completely.
on the positive and you'll have positive outcomes. You focus on all the things that could go wrong, and then you're sitting there at the end of the day like, why did it all go wrong?
And and either one of those are kind of these self-perpetuating cycles. So
yeah.
And you could, extend it to landing a trick,
Mm-hmm.
You can as long as, at a basic skill level of snowboarding and being able to pop and spin a little bit, like if you believe that you can land a trick 100% and you're not, just not anybody can just walk on a snowboard and do this, but if you have a basic level of facility on a snowboard, and then, learning tricks is really about believing that you can do it, not believing in any other. I mean, when we're back in the days when we were learning new tricks, we still learn new stuff, but the way that you do it is that there is no other option in your mind than landing it, and it kind of takes baby steps to get your confidence to that level. But I think it's the same thing. It's like if you focus on it with no other possibility, you're going to make it happen one way or another, know. And I guess that's been the way of, from my perspective, that's been my experience at Air Blaster. Is like the only reason that it's here really is because for me, the only reason, it's like the way that I've pushed it forward, let me say that, is just focusing on that it's going to be here, it's going to happen, and we can do it,
Right.
Like that's it, and a lot of it's not like a glorious like vision of the future. Part of it is that, and a lot of it's just plain stubbornness. You know what I mean? Like it's just stubbornness to go, we gotta, like I said, you face plant, you smack your head in a wall, and you got to figure out a way to drill through or go around, Yeah.
Okay, final question. So where is Josey Gronkowski going to be 10 years from now? Where's Air Blaster going to be 10 years from now?
Oh man, to me that's that's a pretty easy one because I've been doing this for 15 years now, and even though there's still just a ton of hard work and a ton of challenge and a ton of transition that I think we're gonna need to undertake to get to the next level. Like I'm at a stage right now where I feel really good about our team at Air Blaster. I feel really good about where the business is at. We've kept the brand, really healthy and pure and strong because we believe in it. It's something we truly believe in. And so I'm kind of at a stage where I look forward to, the next chapters in Air Blaster. And, it's like, here's another snowboard analogy. It's like post-holing up a chute or something like that. It's like, yes, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, Yeah. But at this point, I'm just looking forward to continuing to do this and continuing to develop it. And I'm not sure if it gets easier, but I feel like you get better at it and it gets more productive. You get to accomplish new things. And, part of it's just, for Air Blaster, our really goal I think compared to a lot of companies, we're a little bit different in our development because a lot of companies were started by somebody who like had an idea and then needed a brand to dress up the idea and make the commercial idea work, right? We didn't do that. We didn't start with any business plan. We started with a set of ideals that we wanted to share.
And a leg bag.
Push. And a leg bag. Secret weapon.
The secret weapon.
So we started with the set of ideals that we've remained true to. And our only real goal has been to like share that with more people, So that's we were talking about it this morning in a meeting. And we were just saying how it's like Jack Hewitt, marketing manager, and I were just saying how, our goal is to get out there and get the ninja suit on every single person who needs base layer. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I'm actually not a very good salesperson. Unless I just 100% believe in something, I'll just tell you have to have it. Otherwise, I'll say, well, you could do A or B, but it's really your choice, whatever you like better. But, when I talk to people about the ninja suit, I'm always like, yeah, do you need base layer? Yeah, you should probably try one. Like I just truly believe like it's made my life better. It's going to make your life better. So it's like, it's really easy to sell the ninja suit for me. And it's really awesome that all these strategy meetings, and we're still competing with the big boys and we're trying to
got all different layers of base layer competition.
Absolutely.
From like, I don't know.
Oh, North Face, Patagonia. I mean,
all of
when do we want to speak to the
right? Like everything. Right?
Yeah.
Everything. Merinos, this and that.
Yeah. So we got to play the game. We got to be smart. We got to strategize. We got to make our voice heard. But at the end of the day, we're really trying to share something that we love in the ninja suit. And then even on a deeper level, I mean, we're really trying, and then the ninja suit is also just this vehicle for good times. And, so the thing that, really pervades Air Blaster and it's just been the kind of heart that's always driven it has been, this search for good times and the drive to share that with people, share it with kids. And I want people to have the same, I want people to fall in love with snowboarding like I fell in love with it because, it's been such a huge factor in my life. It's been a huge positive factor. And, so at the end of the day, when you're just, the thing that you're selling and the message that you're trying to expand is just go have fun, it really makes you feel good about your job. And at the end of the day, you can go, yeah, that might have kicked my ass today, but like, we're doing a good job. We're fighting a pretty good fight. There's probably, there's other things out there that are, probably make what we're doing look kind of selfish and stuff. But at the end of the day, we're encouraging people to,
and people have jobs here.
Yeah.
So it's like, what else?
Get out in the mountains and have fun. So yeah, I just in 10 years, I hope to be doing the same thing, just a little bit better, and maybe with some more hands to share the work and some more brains to share ideas and maybe a little more free time now and then to do more snowboarding. More board meetings as we call them. So, but yeah, get out there and that's been another fun thing about this. It's kept me snowboarding. Got a lot of fun snowboard trips out of it, and sometimes you just gotta go. We did it last week. We're like, you know what? We should probably just go do some product testing. And it's always part of the company culture too. It's like, yeah, go snowboarding.
And everyone here is a snowboarder.
Totally.
Right? It's like a family almost.
Absolutely.
People who work here because you have this common love.
Yeah, absolutely, and that also makes your job easier when we might have worked our butts off today and we might have got our butts kicked or we might be just underwater, under a big load of work. But when you can dip out for a day, go snowboarding or plan a trip that everybody's looking forward to, you're just like, okay, I got to get my shit done. Like, we're going to go snow. If I get my shit done, I can forget about it for, however many days when I go on this trip, and it's like, it's definitely, I think that's an important part of, most work environments that's overlooked.
Cool.
It's just like,
so, okay, last question then.
Yes.
What was your best day of work at Air Blaster ever?
Oh, man.
Was it like some kind of like sales breakthrough? Was it a powder day with your crew?
It was a powder day for sure.
Okay.
No question. Like sales breakthroughs are cool, but I don't remember any.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll just say my favorite day of work, last year, because it's the first thing that pops into my mind is, we went to Austria. We threw a Skalf event, and then we went to a trade show demo, which is a really cool format called Shop's First Try, in Altbachtal, Austria, and cool format. It's like a demo, hard goods demo during the day, and then everybody shreds and tries equipment, and then after, actually the trade show
Fest at night.
with snowboarding. Well, and then you go into a little trade show venue and eat, have a couple beers, and look at soft goods, and there's little booths. So it actually, it's like you're not just standing in basically what's a glorified Costco like you are at a normal trade show. Yep. You're actually doing the activity and then going to talk about the product that's behind it, which is another natural kind of energizer.
Right.
And then it happened to be just dumping in the Alps this last season, and so. Just probably my best day at Air Blaster last year was snowboarding with a bunch of people, but the core group was Len Jorgensen, Sparrow Knox, and Danny from battalion, and we had just an epic powder day where we were just working this zone where not a lot of other people were. You had to duck a rope, and it was like perfectly spaced trees into really big open fields, into really steep gullies, and we just kind of figured it out and worked it for a whole day, and it was like 4 feet of powder, and that was, memorable. Best resort powder day of all time, maybe. So
yeah, sounds like a good day at the office.
Great day at the office.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jesse. I really appreciate your time. This has been really fascinating, and hopefully people listening will learn something about Air Blaster. They'll get the damn ninja suits. Right.
Hey, if you really want to support us, I always say you vote with your dollar. So
yeah. And so what's the best way to put the most money back into Air Blaster to help you guys continue this? Do you guys sell direct? Is it through online shops? Is it through local shops?
All of that. Yeah. Yeah, we do all of that. A minority of our business is done directly. I think only about 8% of our business or so. But the best gateway, the best way to support us is to come buy something from us. And I don't want you to buy something if you don't need it. But if you need base layer, come get the ninja suit. myairBlaster.com. And that's kind of the gateway. You can find a local shop. You can find an online dealer. You can buy directly from us. You can see all our social channels. You can follow those, and they're a good time. So that's
cool.
it.
Right on.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the chance to talk about it and talk about the good days at the office.
They're all good days at the office. Well, some better than others, so
right,
apparently.
Right. So much better than others.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Cheers. Thank you.
On. Have a good day.
Stay wild.
On behalf of Mark Sullivan and the Beeve, thanks for listening to the Snowboard Project. Remember, ride fast, take chances, dream big, and take action. And for God's sake, don't forget to support advertising-free snowboarding media at patreon.com. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.